So, okay. Let's see. I want to live screen, not live screen multiplayer 2. Okay. And that is, of course, showing that. Which I think should fix when you turn your camera on. And I just want to see why alert box is, there we go, set that to stream tracks, that it comes through the stream. Maybe if we get a follower. Okay, and then let's hide the document for now. And let's hide to us for now. Sorry to anyone who may be watching right now. Go. And yeah, no D&D tonight, but we will be discussing some news from D&D. So now I have to open this folder and fix this so that it's proper. Then I can fit the whole thing on the screen. There we go. Okay, so even though we are not playing D&D, we are still affiliated with Arkenforge. If you want to know about Arkenforge, it is the platform that we use for our VTT and map making on our regular D&D stream that's on Sunday nights. They have a one-time payment with no subscription fee. Can be used fully offline or online through Discord or Skype or whatever you happen to use. Can be installed on an unlimited number of devices with a single purchase, easily import and manage your own content, build fully animated maps with real-time lighting, hook up a TV or projector when you're playing in person, manage your campaigns with a robust linkable note system. I don't use that so much for my campaign, but I do use it for tokens, which is pretty good. Set the scene with immersive audio. You get a full commercial license for exported maps, as long as you're, of course, using assets that aren't copywritten. And it is touchscreen compatible for use with physical minis. Pat is always saying he is really looking forward to that. I don't have a touchscreen, so there's not much we can do with that once it's all going. But yeah, you can use code MushroomTips at checkout for $5 off of the Master's Toolkit, either the Fantasy or Sci-Fi Starter Pack, which includes the Toolkit and either the Fantasy Essentials or Sci-Fi Essentials Content Pack. And there is also a 14-day free trial before you purchase to see if you like it. They're in like alpha, technically, maybe technically beta, and they've got a beta stream that you can hop into. I think you can even hop into that during the trial to see what's coming next. It's quite good. I love it. And for now, I'm going to close that and close that. Keep the color source, and then head up here and turn on Connor, turn on myself, which I actually do need to fix. Okay, so where am I? I'm on the right-hand side. Okay, so move this over. I'm just gonna not worry about it freaking out with being on the wrong plane, and move this. There we go. And squeeze me in there. Give a little more on bottom, a little more on top. Slide it down a bit. Okay, so this week we are going to be discussing the new Unearthed Arcana, which is for the 1D&D playtest. Did you watch any of the stream that they had? No? Well, they discussed that they're finally going to be doing, what's it called? Shit, what's the word? They're going to be combining physical and digital. So you can buy a physical book and you get a digital copy, which people have been... Exactly. People have been screaming about it for a long time, and they're finally offering it. So that's going to be good. I think the first one that's getting that treatment is the Dragonlance campaign book. And this, I'm going to preface that I have seen a few people online having a lot of problems with it, saying that it's racist. As a white guy, I don't see it, but I'm also white, so I can't speak to that. The one person I saw really vehemently, oh, this is so racist, they were going against it, and they're still racist. The majority of the people who agreed with him were white, and the majority of the people who disagreed with him were not white. So take that as you will. It is in the backgrounds. We'll get there. It's, yeah. And I can sort of see, but at the same time, I don't see. Because when someone pointed out that the backgrounds are just suggestions for how to build a background, he was like, oh, now they want us to do all the heavy lifting. It's either it's racist or the heavy lifting is on everyone else. So I don't know. Basically, yeah. It's more like 5.5 because it's fully backward compatible, or it's supposed to be. Yeah. We are 8 years. It's going to be 10 years when this is officially released. And it's going to be the 50th anniversary, I believe, of D&D. Yeah. I mean, some of the things are really cool. Some of the things they've already been doing in 5e for the past couple books. Some of the things I could do without. But yeah. Is this your first time looking through it? Okay. So I've looked through pretty much the entire thing. So we've got one person who knows it and one person who doesn't. One thing to keep in mind, which a lot of people online don't seem to understand, is this is playtest. So you can use it or not. And it's all subject to change. And there is going to be a survey for the playtest where you can tell them what they got right and what they got wrong. So yeah. Sorry, you're kind of breaking up there for me. Yeah. Also, for some reason... Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Past issues, right? Is where the issue is pick up and learn. The learning floor is very steep. The learning curve, I should say, is very steep. Whereas for 5e, it's really not.
Exactly.
And it keeps the numbers down too. So.
Yeah. And I had to go in there and re-add the audio for you because apparently when I deleted it from a different scene, it deleted it from this one as well. But nice. That's fine. People heard the last little bit of that. That's fine. We've only got one viewer right now, so... yeah. This particular one is going through the first bit of character creation, your race, your background, your language, and first level feats, because now you automatically get a feat at first level. It's not only the variant human who gets that.
I like that.
Yeah.
I personally like feats. I think feats allow characters to gain skills that can make them unique, right?
Exactly.
If it's me, honestly, and this might be something that I would do in a future game, I'd give characters feats every 2 levels. Because if we be perfectly honest here, we're looking at campaigns that run. A majority of your campaigns are going to probably run 1 to 12, maybe 15.
Yeah.
So if you even do that, you're getting 6, maybe 7 feats. And I don't think that the balancing would be that difficult to start accumulating those things, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we're obviously going to have instances where people discover broken combinations between like 3 or 4 of them.
Oh,
but
yeah.
Again, there's already so many broken things in D that you can work anyways. Like
exactly.
It's not completely balanced anyways. So.
Yeah, and I mean, there's always going to be a power gamer, no matter what.
Yeah.
There's always power gamers, and
I mean, like, I was gonna say 5e. The biggest one is fucking running halfling with luck.
Yeah, and we had that in our previous campaign.
Yeah, just here. You missed. Oh, roll again. Oh, you know what? No, roll again.
Exactly.
No, you missed again. Roll for the 4th time.
I rolled a 1, so okay, I'm gonna roll again because I'm a halfling. And I rolled another 1. I'm gonna use lucky. And you rolled a natural 20 on me. I'm gonna use lucky. So yeah, and what I heard from, I believe it was Jeremy Crawford who said it in the discussion about this. They seem to be going with feats as class options, basically. So they're all going to be leveled, so you get a first level feat, and then at, say, 4th, you can choose a 1st or 4th level feat.
That ties it back a little bit back to 3rd edition.
Yeah.
Where you had specific requirements for feats, right? So I mean,
Exactly.
that can also help the power creep a little bit, right?
Yeah.
Because then you can limit things like evasion behind level 7.
Exactly.
Or something like that, right? Because that's mostly when rogues and other classes get it.
Exactly.
7, so. But I don't think evasion is technical.
I don't know if evasion is a if there's an evasion in a feat. I know there's something for I believe it's either Shield Master or Heavy Armor Master that lets you yeah. I took that in my first I took that my first time as well. So it was like, fuck yeah. I'm a cleric and I've got a shield and Warhammer. Yes, I'm gonna take that.
I ran that at the end of our last campaign, where I was 3/4 resistant to fucking fire damage.
Yeah.
Shield gave me 50%, and then evasion gave me another 50%. So anytime you tried to AoE nuke me with fire, it was like, ha! Your 20 damage is full.
Exactly, yeah. So, what a character origin gives you specifically from your race. You only get a creature type because every creature has every playable race now has a type. So there are fae, there are monstrosities. I don't know if they made I can't remember. Let me actually just check. Swap over to Astral Adventures Guide. Are the Thri-kreen... Yes. So, Thri-kreen in Spelljammer are monstrosities. They remain monstrosities from the original monster, rather than, in some cases, they change them over from monstrosity to humanoid. And then Plasmoid would be the same. You are an ooze. Because before I think the only one that was like that was the Warforged, where you are a construct.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Goliath is still humanoid, and Furbolg, even though they are traditionally, like, they were created by giant gods, they're still humanoids. And is the Astral Elf humanoid?
That's interesting.
Yeah, Astral Elf is humanoid and considered an elf for prerequisites.
It just, honestly, it feels like, as weird as this sounds, like, this almost feels like they're opening it up even further to homebrew. Based on what they're doing, right? Is they're just being like, here's some guidelines.
Yeah.
In what should make up your character.
Yeah.
But we're not going to restrict you to anything, so do it how you want to.
Everyone's got a size. You'll see in this, there's a few that are like, you can be medium or small, or instead of just you are medium or you are small. You get a speed. A couple of them actually lost the reduction to speed that they have in regular 5e. You get a lifespan, which is something that they took out of the last 2 book releases. Everyone is 100 years old except for elves and dwarves. And now they're adding it back in. And then each race gets a special trait.
Yeah. So I mean, they're keeping it pretty simple. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
But again, it looks like it builds a better framework for homebrewing these races, right?
Yeah.
Because then you know what you basically require to.
Yeah. They are now moving the ability score improvement to backgrounds, which I think is really cool. I was kind of, I wouldn't say upset, but I didn't like the removal of the normal ASI from Tasha's. I think that, you know, certain of them, like, they're not racist. They're not, you know, white, black, Asian. They are different species. So it's like looking at a bear. A bear is gonna have higher strength than a weasel. So I didn't like that they took it away from that. Putting it into background makes a lot of sense because it tells you, like, my character is a halfling, but he's been working out his entire life.
He's gonna have more strength, right?
Exactly. You can still be a halfling barbarian.
It does make sense. Like I think it does make sense both ways, right? Obviously.
Exactly.
We can start a whole debate, but that can come down to nature versus nurture type of stuff, right?
Exactly.
Where it's
Yeah.
like what's within the race's nature versus what's within an individual's nurture.
Exactly.
Environment. So it would be neat if they split it, but again, I think that just muddies the water too much. So
yeah.
I think the easier way is to toss it in the background.
Exactly. And like when you look at orcs, they are basically a where they originated in Tolkien. Back then, it was pretty common to be black people are like this, and that's where some of the stereotypical stuff came from for orcs. So I can see them wanting to take ASIs away from races and just giving a special trait so that they're unique, but they're not racist. And then your background is also where you get your language, which again also makes sense. And skill proficiencies, tool proficiencies, and your equipment. They've got a big section here about half-breeds. So you can have half-dwarves. Exactly.
Yeah, putting the ASI into backgrounds instead of races makes half-breeds a lot easier to manage as well.
Exactly.
Because you're not trying to decide if you should take the strength from dwarf or if you take the con from dwarf, right? And
exactly. So basically the only thing that you're taking from human or dwarf or elf and dwarf or whatever is your special trait. And everything else you mix and match the visuals, and then you get the average of their lifespans.
Because it'd be like, because you never hear of things. You never really heard of half dwarf, half elves, right?
Exactly.
It's always half humans. So
yeah.
This opens up the ability to do that a lot easier.
Exactly. Yeah. Do you have anything else to bring up before we move on to humans?
So just overall, yeah, as I said earlier, level 1 feats, fantastic. I'm all for feats. Give me all of the feats. Allows custom characterization. And then things off of background just make things a lot more easy to custom.
Yeah. Alright, so humans, found throughout the multiverse. Humans are as varied as they are numerous. They're relatively short-lived, but they strive to achieve as much as they can in the years they are given. There's a bunch here about this. As diverse in appearance as the people of Earth and have many gods. Scholars dispute the origin, but one of the earliest known human gatherings is said to have occurred in Sigil, The torus-shaped city at the center of the multiverse and the place from where the common tongue was born. From there, humans could have spread to every corner of the multiverse, bringing Sigel's cosmopolitanism with them. And you'll see this with basically everything. They are going for multiverse, which I like because that's what all of our basically all of our campaigns have been about, is multiverse, and that's why we're bringing in stuff like the Eberron dragon marked houses and stuff like that you can use for your character.
Yeah, giving the option to a lot of different spots. Obviously, like, yeah, it opens up the world a lot more. And I think planar travel is something that was underutilized within D&D.
Yeah.
Because they made it so high level and so difficult to do.
Yeah.
But if they made it a little bit easier or a little bit more active, right? It's a lot easier to find your low-level character in one of the planes of hell, right? Versus in even one of the lower planes of hell, right? Because that's also something that I don't think is really explored either. It talks about how, like, the different levels of hell or the different levels of the abyss, they are different, like, strengths, right?
Yeah.
So, you know, going down to the first level of hell might not be that. It shouldn't be as seen as such a big feat for like a level like 20 character, right? Going to the first level of hell can just be like a Sunday jaunt, right? But it still gives the opportunity for the level 5 character to go down there and be like, hey, holy shit, this is the first time I've ever seen devils.
Yeah.
And get that experience that way, and it opens up a lot more story paths too.
Yeah. Heading into traits, you're humanoid, of course. This is the first time that we get the medium or small. I think since are Hadozi medium or small? Okay, so since Spelljammer, but still, the first time that we've got the medium or small, and it's actually giving you a height, medium 4 to 7 feet and small 2 to 4 feet, which makes sense because they're short people.
Yeah.
There are other ones that I saw in here that don't have that I think probably should. Elf is an example. They are medium only, and why aren't there small elves? But still. Speed 30, lifespan 80 on average, and the special traits that humans get. You gain inspiration whenever you finish a long rest. Yeah.
I don't know if I like that.
Yeah. You gain proficiency in one skill of your choice, and you gain the skilled feat or another first level feat of your choice. The inspiration thing, they are really pushing it. I think they saw that it was not utilized as much as they wanted in 5e. In our campaigns, anytime someone has it, they don't use it. Like, nobody has used inspiration in our games when it's been given, and then because it's been so long since then, I have not even given it, because there's no point.
Yes and no, like, because it's one of those things where it's what's the word I'm looking?
Situational?
It's not situational. It's so much up to the DM's call on how it's given or where it comes out. Where unless you have a DM who gives it to people regularly for pretty consistent reasons, it's hard to remember that you have it sometimes.
Exactly.
I can understand trying to I can understand giving more freedom to giving it, but just flat out being like, yeah, take a long rest, you get it.
Yeah.
That's a little like overcompensating for it, I guess, right?
Yeah.
Like, just open up the ease of the ability to get it, or even, you know what, give bards the specific ability to give like that kind of inspiration.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
just
that would
bard
be.
inspiration, because that's a D6 at what 6th level is not bad. I think it's
Yeah.
where they get D6, right?
I think so. I think it starts 4, 6, 8,
Yeah.
10.
I don't know if it gets to 10, but I don't play bards, so couldn't really tell
Yeah.
you. But no, it's just like actually giving characters the, because that's what I see it as, right?
Yeah.
There should be a way in each class to give it to another character, right?
Yeah.
I think that would be a better way to go about it than just trying to push it on people. Like,
Yeah.
have a long rest. Here you go. You're for free, right?
Exactly.
But if every class gets a skill that has the ability to give inspiration, maybe call it a level 3. Call it as one of the level 3 abilities, like, because you already power spike pretty
Yeah.
hard at level 3, right?
Yeah.
What's an extra inspiration ability to be like, hey, once for long rest, you can give inspiration to
Exactly.
party members, right?
Or maybe even put it into Bard as a normal thing, and
Make it a
is it
condition for maybe like
champion or one of the core fighter subclasses. One of them gives people, like, can command them around the battlefield. Give it to them as well, and then make it a feat for anyone else to take to give it at the beginning of or at the end of a long rest.
Well, I think like you can even do it like differently. Like I said, so maybe for fighters, this is like specific fighter class. It's an overall class ability, not a specific subclass ability, right?
Mm-hmm.
So for fighters, if you get the killing blow on an enemy, give an ally inspiration.
Yeah.
For like a wizard, if you successfully cast your highest level spell, and it kills someone, give someone inspiration, right?
Right.
Or even you can even limit it to, if you cast a spell and kill someone with it, you can give someone inspiration, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think it can tie a little bit more into those like reactive abilities where you would really kind of feel invigorated from the actions of your party member, right? Like obviously the easiest one is killing an enemy to get invigorated, but like I mean there's plenty of other things, right? Where maybe you hit your healer gets, if you hit a heal up above 50%, right? You give someone
or roll maximum on the heal die.
Yeah, or like I said, or if you heal someone to full, you get inspiration.
Yeah.
Because they feel renewed, right? So I'm sure there's lots of different ways that people that are smarter than me can come up with to apply these things into each class, so that there's a way to activate them either through just typical combat or through the social interactions or anything else, right?
Social would really need it, because you need to support all of the pillars. So rangers could give it for the exploration pillar. Doing something in exploration helps give inspiration.
And that can help drive characters and character creation as well, right? Where it's just like, okay, well, if I want to be able to give my party inspiration these certain ways, as a ranger, maybe you're more inclined to then be at the front of the pack, right?
Yeah.
Even for a ranger, it could be if you land the first blow in the fight.
Yeah.
It's a inspiration.
Yeah.
And just so it inclines you to be ahead of the pack to hit first, or a sneak attack or something like that, right? With rogues, it could be if you hit a sneak attack. So you can put conditions on giving inspiration to broaden it out like that, but just I don't know, just shoehorning it in, saying here you go after a long rest, is a little bit lazy, I'll say.
I absolutely agree with that. Skillful and versatile are pretty normal ones. I'm actually just gonna open up the races and see what we've got. I believe that's pretty much what the variant gets: skills, proficiency in one skill of your choice, which is the skillful there. Feat You gain 1 feat of your choice. Versatile, 1 feat of your choice. So yeah, this is basically the variant human plus inspiration.
And they've just basically turned that into base humans.
Yeah. I mean, that's good because nobody uses the base human. Everyone uses the variant human.
Realistically, if you're gonna be a human, you're gonna be a variant human because
Yeah.
there's no point in not being a variant human.
Exactly. And then humans of many worlds. On any given world in the multiverse, the material culture of humans can change from one region to another. In the Forgotten Realms, for example, the clothing, architecture, cuisine, music, and literature are wildly different in the Western Heartlands than in the frozen north of Icewind Dale. As humans migrate, they bring elements of their culture with them, giving rise to diverse settlements that contain people with different physical characteristics, not to mention a medley of clothing styles, customs, and beliefs, which all makes sense. Yeah. And then next, we have a brand new race. Yeah, plays into
that. Just plays into the customization of your person.
Yeah.
Basically do what you want.
Mm-hmm. And now we have the Ardlings, brand new race. So they are supernatural beings who are either born on the upper planes or who have one or more ancestors who originated there. Their bright souls shine with the light of immortal beings who call the upper planes home. An Ardling has a head resembling that of an animal, typically one with virtuous associations. Depending on the animal, the Ardling might also have soft fur, downy feathers, or supple bare skin. The Ardling's celestial legacy determines the animal it resembles. An Ardling gains a measure of magical power from their celestial legacy, as well as the ability to manifest spectral wings. An Ardling's moral and ethical outlook is self-determined, however not fixed by ancestry. The 3 celestial legacies are as follows.
Are they making celestials? They're like animal gods?
So, yes. The way that Crawford discussed it was that there are a lot of mythologies in Earth history that had animal gods. You look at Anubis and various other Horus and stuff like that. You've got the jackal head. You've got the is it eagle or hawk? I am not quite sure what Horus is. But they've got the human body and the animal head, and you see that in various cultures. And so they're kind of trying to bring that into D&D.
So did they just completely remove like angelic references then?
Basically, these ones aren't angelic, except for the wings.
So they're just moving away from that completely then.
I don't think so. I think the Azamar are still they're still a normal one. They're just not core. This is giving a core opposite to the Tiefling.
I see.
One thing I really think they should do is make a likewise core middle planes, the law and chaos and neutrality. It would be really cool to have not a Modron, but a character whose race is heavily associated with law and gets, instead of spectral angelic wings, gets like clockwork wings or something like that. I think that would be really cool.
As weird as this sounds, I feel like that's what humans are basically like the well, sort of. I guess humans are just the neutral point of fucking everything. If you really want to, if you really think about
I
it.
guess that's true.
Because they can basically do anything. So they're just
Yeah.
the neutral point of everything.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I don't know why they wouldn't just continue with like the angelics being celestials, right? Or
Yeah.
the angelic celestials with the Azamar.
Yeah.
I understand going to the animals because they also had the whole Egyptian expansion, right? They have that whole area, right?
Yeah.
What's it called again?
There was Amonkhet, which is from Magic the Gathering.
No. There was
I don't know what the actual Egyptian inspired setting is, though. That's not the Magic the Gathering one. I know they have an African one. And then Chult is South American.
Theros, that's what it is.
Theros.
That's the one I'm thinking.
Right.
I guess that's more
Greek.
Greek god. That's Greek.
Yeah.
But
And that is a Magic the Gathering setting.
is Theros really?
Yep. And then we get into the celestial legacies here. There's the Exalted, Fierce Passions of Arborea, Heroic Heart of Isgard, and the Wondrous Nature of the Beastlands, call to Ardlings who have the Exalted Celestial Legacy. Celestial ancestors are heroic champions of chaotic good planes. There's Heavenly Blissful Harmony of Arcadia, the Unwavering Justice of Mount Celestia, and the Bucolic Paradise of Bitopia touch the souls of Ardlings who have the Heavenly Celestial Legacy. Their celestial ancestors are staunch defenders of the lawful good planes. And then Idyllic Celestial Legacy connects Ardlings not only to the Beastlands and Bitopia, but also to the eternal compassion of Elysium. Their celestial ancestors are paragons of kindness who hail from the neutral good planes.
Yeah, so you have your. Interesting.
Yeah.
So you basically have it's all your good land.
Yes, Ardlings are all the upper planes.
Yeah. No, I'm just it's. Yeah, I don't know. It seems interesting.
Yeah.
I still would have gone angelic because like when you think devils and demons, you think the opposite to me.
Angelic.
Like, yeah, I almost would have went with the animals being the lawful creed that you brought up, right?
Yeah, the law and chaos.
The law of nature, right?
Yeah.
You're referring back to the law of the land or law of well, essentially survival of physics. What's law is law. And then keep Azamar as the good to the evil tieflings, and then you have Wilthor. I think that would have been a good way.
Then we go into creature types.
Like,
humanoid. Yeah.
I was gonna say, it just feels like they're kind of removing Azamar's point in this thing.
Yeah, I kinda get that. Yeah. Azamar is still around, but they don't really factor in the same. It's kind of doubling up on them.
Yeah, exactly.
So Ardling traits, you've got humanoid. Like humans, they are medium or small with the same height variation. Speed is 30, lifespan 200. And then special traits, you get angelic flight. As bonus action, sprout spectral wings for a moment and sply, and fly up to a number of feet equal to your speed. If you are in the air at the end of this movement, you fall if nothing is holding you aloft, and you can do this as many times as your proficiency bonus before you need to do another long rest.
See, they could have just called it Spectral Flight, and again, with them as a neutral grade.
Yeah.
I don't know, that's probably gonna be my entire criticism of
Yeah.
this race as we go through it. They're just pushing out angels for furries, okay? That's all they're doing.
So Celestial Legacies, these are the sub races. Don't need to read that whole thing because it is right in here. Exalted have suggested animals: cat, eagle, goat, mule. You get thaumaturgy, your cantrip at first level, then divine favor at third, and lesser restoration at fifth. Heavenly get elephant, owl, pig, stork. Light, cure wounds, zone of truth, and then idyllic get bear, dog, raven, and toad, which is funny. A toad a toad angelic being. Get guidance, healing word, and animal messenger. And then you can select intelligence, wisdom, or charisma. I think it's good that they're doing that rather than forcing one of those on you. And it is cast once with this trait per long rest, but you can use spell slots as well.
And so, like, why would you not just play this every time? Like,
Yeah.
even comparatively, like, humans are, like, underpowered comparatively. Oh, you get inspiration once a long rest. Here's 3 spells you get at first, third, and fifth.
Yeah.
And these are not, like, fucking lesser restoration is not a not a shit spell.
Yeah.
Cure wounds is a good spell. Healing word is a good spell. Like,
Yeah.
we're talking, like, these are good, good things that will be used often.
Yeah.
Oh, but you get inspiration every once a long rest.
Yeah. And the last thing that they get is resistance to radiant damage. There's not too many creatures that deal radiant damage, so it's not exactly a big thing.
Nah, that's not a big deal. That's like
Yeah.
yours having resistance to wounds and whatever.
Exactly.
It's useful, but it's not gonna always come up.
And then Ardlings of Many Worlds bring a little bit of the upper planes with them wherever they go. The first Ardlings used the magic of their celestial legacies to inspire and heal others. By virtue of their celestial legacies, some Ardlings strive to make the world a better place. Others use their supernatural gifts to be the best version of themselves they can be. Still others are delighted to have a connection to the upper planes without the responsibility of always having to do the right thing. So, going back to something that we were discussing with Pat at the beginning of one of our episodes, the Ancient Aliens stuff, that first paragraph really gives me an Ancient Aliens vibe. That they, on many worlds, they showed up and were basically the animal-headed gods of those worlds. That's kind of what it
just
gives
ripping
me.
off Stargate at this point, right?
Oh,
They're
yeah.
just like they're playing off Go Wild and all of the basically like how all of their soldiers just as animal heads.
Yeah.
Or they're just making actual animals. It's just like.
Oh man, I loved Stargate. That was so good.
I actually wanted to watch it there recently, and apparently it's not on any streaming service. It's been
Really?
ripped off of Netflix. Yeah, it's been ripped off of everything. It's not on Prime. It's not on
I-
Netflix. It's not on Hulu.
I do
I
have, I believe I've got all 10 seasons on DVD.
I specifically Googled it because I wanted to watch it recently. Well, fuck.
If you wanna stop by my place, let me know. I'll search through and grab you all the DVD box sets.
You know, the sad part is that really the only spot. Wait.
cat
Shit,
going
I
nuts?
don't even have. I don't even have a DVD player.
No?
Now that I think about it, I gave my Xbox to my brother, which I used to use to play DVDs occasionally. I don't have a disc drive in my PC, and my TV in my room is just run off my Chromecast, so I don't actually have a DVD.
I guess I guess there's no point in lending that
So
to
yeah,
you.
no, don't worry about taking them out.
Okay, so next is the Dragonborn. Um, they are actually giving them more to do with dragons. The earliest Dragonborn hatched from the eggs of chromatic and metallic dragons. Um, One story holds that they were blessed by Bahamut and Tiamat, who wanted to populate the worlds of dragons with people created in their image. Yeah. Originally, Dragonborn looked like dragons and had the draconic ancestry stuff, but they were nothing like. They were not related to dragons specifically. Same
Which I
with
thought was always
kobolds.
the
What's that?
which always just seems silly. Like they're dragonborn. I know they're the
Yeah.
dragonborn of dragons. Like dragons made them, used
Yeah.
them as soldiers essentially. Well, I shouldn't say soldiers. I should more say cannon fodder.
Yeah.
Because
They used them as Canadians.
But yeah, but them having nothing to do or not really having a dragon heritage just seems stupid. So like,
Yeah.
if they actually tie that back in, that makes sense.
I do agree with that. I'm trying to find. Do I specifically have to? Oh no, this is. Okay, so yes, chromatic gem and okay, so they do have the Fizban's Dragonborn in here, which I wish they were using for this. As you'll see, it's not as good as the newer version from Fizban's Treasury or whatever it's called. So they're humanoid. They are all medium, between 5 and 7 feet tall. So no medium or small. I guess allowing small would kind of like mess up the kobolds. Maybe make kobolds dog people again. Then you can have small dragonborns. What's that?
Can we just get like Tanukis too while we're at it? Just give us everything at this point. Like this is kind of what I feel like we just deserve.
Yeah. So speed 30, lifespan 80, draconic ancestry. Everyone knows this. You got the chromatic and the metallic, black, blue, brass, bronze, copper, gold, green, red, silver, and white. So unlike in Fizban's, they're not separated and having the different abilities. The breath weapon has been changed to always be a cone. Originally, it was split up. The very original one,
Yeah,
was.
see, give me that. Like
Yeah.
I like that that kind of draconic ancestry.
Yeah,
where
the
it
breath
actually,
weapon.
Your breath weapon actually depends on ancestry and what it like actually shoots. Because man, it made me stoked when I watched the trailer for the new D and it actually had a black dragon spraying acid.
Yeah.
Like the fact that they actually paid attention to that detail
Yeah.
matters, and the fact that they're actually putting that detail to this now matters. Just makes
Well,
feel.
it was always in the Dragonborn of 5th edition, but the difference was some of them had a 5 by 30 foot line and others had a 15-foot cone. Now they've all got the cone.
That seems reasonable.
And it's good to have them like the same. rather than having to depend. Apparently, a lot of people would choose um, only a few types because they wanted the cone over the line.
Yeah. I mean, if I'm to be honest, you could all be just give the spell both, or you could just give the breath weapon both. You could give the option of on cast.
Yeah,
You can either cast in a 30-foot line or a 50-foot cone. I
yeah,
don't see how, um, because I think like both have their own advantages and they
that's
both have
true.
their disadvantages, right? So
Yeah,
that'd be a neat way to go about it too.
yeah. Another thing they did is they made them all dex saves. The original ones, um, they were all dex saves except for green, silver, and white. Those were con saves. Making it dex saves just simplifies everything. And they also changed the damage. So I did the math while watching someone else go through this, and it does increase the power on average. So originally you had at 16th level you had 5d6, which comes to 5 times 3.5, so 15 plus um,
We're looking at 17 damage or so on average.
yeah, about
17,
17.
Um, but see. I'm one of those people. I always take the lower side of the average, so I'd say 15 damage on average, right? So
Yeah.
it just. And would they change it to D8?
um, so in Fizbins it changed to just 1d10 up to 4d10 at 17th. Average of a die is that 0.5, so that would be 5.5 times 4. You're looking at 20
You're looking at 22.
22. And then this is 1d10 plus your character level. So at 20th level, you are getting 25.
And see, this is where like scaling in D&D to me isn't as important. Like, well, scaling is important in D&D, but it also like when you're talking about 20th level, I I hate to say it, but a lot less time needs to be invested balancing 20 like a
That's
character
true.
levels at level 20 because I'm gonna say I wish there were stats for this. I wish I could go and find stats for this, but I would say probably 80% of campaigns finish by level 12.
Yeah, not too
We've
many,
had
and
one.
that's why all of the that's why there's only been 2 official adventures that go to level 20, because most campaigns they've wizards have found only go to 10 or 12.
Yeah. So like either they, and that could be honestly like I enjoy the power. I like playing D and for that power fantasy as well.
Yeah,
So I would totally be okay if they trimmed down the I want to say trim down the XP requirements a little bit so you hit higher levels, and they released a little bit more higher tier content because like
yeah,
there's so many cool things that you don't get to do because you don't get to hit those levels most of
mm-hmm.
the time, right? So like I would like to see that as well. And like it because like I said I like the power. I like feeling that, and
Yeah,
I just feel like you're missing out on 50% of the content. You don't
yeah,
hit those levels, or at
um,
least you're missing out on 50% of the character content. I
yeah,
shouldn't say content.
exactly. WebDM have talked about just changing it to 10 levels, getting rid of all the dead levels, and all of D&D you can get the full 20 level experience, but only in 10 levels, and they can continue to just release adventures at 10. But that's definitely not something they're going to do. They're going to stick with the legacy 20 levels.
20 is probably best, I think. Um,
You
because
need time to
it
learn
gives you
what your
more
character can
options to
do.
yeah, it gives you more options to customize your character because you're gonna
Yeah,
get more level up points to hit more different things, right?
exactly.
And that's why again I'm all more for more feats because
Yeah,
give me more feats so my character can do more unique things.
exactly.
And so you need more levels to do. And I think that's something that I would like to see is just XP requirement dropped a little bit.
Yeah.
I
And
want that power fantasy.
one other thing that WebDM brought up that I absolutely do agree with is making the breath weapon um, not an action, but part of an attack action. I think it would be
Yeah,
good
yeah.
so that a fighter can swing their sword and then breathe fire, or breathe fire and swing their sword.
I thought it was worded like that, but maybe.
No, it has always been as an action.
Yeah, I would definitely transfer that. I'd house rule that even.
Yeah.
To the extent that's how much I would prefer.
And I guess that is pretty easy to house rule. Next time if we ever get a Dragonborn, I think that would definitely be what I would do is house rule that.
Also, just this is totally a side note. Just
Yep.
I don't think I don't think there's any way I'm playing tank next time.
Don't worry.
Like, or either I play. It has to be either I play a full tank, or and if I do, it's gonna be a clear, because like people who like to play different things.
Yeah.
I'm
Well, we've got a barbarian for sure coming in the next one. Ryan's playing a plasmoid barbarian, so we've got at least one tank. So next on the Dragonborn is the damage resistance, which is standard, dark vision, which they didn't have before. Everyone always seems to play them with dark vision anyway, so I guess that's why they're giving it to them. Nope, they do not.
I feel like you're lying.
I am absolutely.
Like that's how certain I am.
Exactly.
Dragonborns had dark vision.
Yeah. And then, unlike I think all of the other races, Dragonborn get a language. You get Draconic. Instinctively know the language of dragons, which I guess harkens back to them now coming from dragon eggs, because dragons are born intelligent creatures. They're born completely sentient and sapient, and like a human is born knowing that they can be hurt, but they don't know anything that's going on until they develop. So that kind of makes sense for Dragonborn. Are you figuring out the toy, buddy?
It's cool that they expanded too.
Kind of cut out there.
I was just looking through some of the Dragonborns, the current dragon. Anyways,
Yeah.
I didn't realize they expanded into gem dragons.
Yes. The Gem Dragon I like. Gem Dragonborn I also like. And then we get into the Dragonborn of many worlds. Have a mystical bond to the material plane and are spread across its many worlds, which is actually some of the lore that was added in Fizban's for regular dragons, is that they are connected, and some of them are connected across planes, the same dragon in different planes. On some worlds, the earliest Dragonborn settlements were built near dragon lairs so that the Dragonborn could pay tribute to their draconic progenitors. Many of these ancient settlements still exist. For example, the dragon-ruled continent of Argonison on the world of Eberron has Dragonborn cities tucked among its mountain ranges. On other worlds, Dragonborn ply their skills in settlements populated mostly by non-Dragonborn, fulfilling an urge to expand their presence and influence, much as dragons do. I mean, I get that.
Um, it just feels like the out of many worlds parts for all of these races is just to kind of put in writing what most people already assume is that, well, yeah, there's always the one-off dragonborn that can come from Sigil.
Exactly.
Come from the abyss for some reason, right?
Yeah.
Like, there's always gonna, that's just literally to put in writing to say, hey, character can come from anywhere.
Exactly.
Which I feel like didn't put it direct. They just need to use their imagination. But
yeah,
you know, this is a whole nother topic that we would go into with people not critical.
Yeah. So next is the dwarf. What I like here, and what some people are still calling racist because of these special features that the dwarf gets, but because it's called out right here, I like. So they were resilient like the mountains. Dwarves were raised up from the earth in the elder days by a deity of the forge. They were literally created by their god from mountains, from stone.
Yeah, half of the argument regarding the racist shit in D&D is complete and utter bullshit because it's people misunderstanding the race is that is their nature more than anything else. It is not because they are that way because of a certain specific reason not related to who they are.
Exactly.
It is a result of their environment.
Yeah.
Biggest one being drows are black because they're from the Underdark. That's the only reason that drows are black.
Yeah.
That's it. If anyone wants to read into that more, that's them reading into a fucking game more than they should.
Yeah. So Moradin apparently exists on all the different planes with different names: Moradin, Rorix, and others. And this god gave dwarves an affinity for stone and metal and for living underground. Even if your dwarf is from the forest, they still have these special things because they were created out of stone. They were created specifically from this god. And yes, your dwarven druid can shun using metal. That's perfectly fine. But they still have this, and you can talk with your dungeon master to say, hey, my dwarf is a druid, can I choose a different tool proficiency? I would say yes. Like, absolutely. You're forge wise, but forge wise, okay, that can be, you can change it from working with stone or metal to working with tools.
It's not even hard to, like, I'm surprised, like, if I'm gonna be perfectly honest, the fact that leatherworkers tools isn't included in the forge wise thing is
exactly
surprising to me. Like, that makes sense, total sense. Hell,
absolutely.
Even these tools make sense, right?
Yeah. It would be, I think it would be better to just change it to being working with, or proficiency with 2 artisan tools.
Yeah.
Because in some of the previous lore, I think it might even be in the basic lore, or it's lore about, it's lore about the Duergar. It talks about how all of the other dwarves were made by Moradin with the innate desire to create and do work. They just want to make things. They want to work on making something. Whether that's whittling or, working with metal or what, they want to do that. The Duergar, because of what happened between Leduger and Moradin, the whole schism there. That's why they don't like to do that, because of that happening. That's why I think that's perfectly fine. Like, just change that so that it fits with that.
Yeah, I don't know. Again, it's the people. The frustrating part is that a good chunk of the people that are nitpicking some of the stuff that they're changing, again, relates to a different conversation. But they can't appreciate nuance.
Yeah.
So without an appreciation for nuance, a lot of things in D&D on a base level can look a little bit messed up. But as soon as you understand the history behind a lot of these races and stuff like that, it is fully explained in why things are the way they are.
Yeah.
It's not just because the writers wanted it to be this way, because
exactly.
this is something that is reflective of our current society. Like, that's not
one thing I have seen. I think it was even in the Sans Pants Discord. Someone complaining that they have taken away all of the lore from these races.
Yeah.
But look at all this fucking lore that's here. It's a playtest document, so it's not going to have the entire page count. And here for dwarves, which I didn't scroll down for, but here with dwarves, there are two paragraphs about dwarves in general, and then another two about multiverse dwarves. There's loads of lore here, even in this playtest document.
And the thing about it is like, you can't. And what they want to do with this edition, from what I'm understanding, is that they don't want to shoehorn people into their typical requirements, right? So
exactly.
Again, it's just, if you start building too much lore, it starts forcing these races to be more reflective of that lore.
Yeah.
Where your character should be more reflective of that lore if you're trying to roleplay them as close as possible.
Exactly.
Right?
And
whereas
I mean,
if you leave it a little more open-ended, you have the ability to expand your own character backstory, especially with the new backstories that they've been given, the way they set it up and everything else like that, right? So it's
exactly. And I mean, one of the things that has been going on is that for the longest time, the only lore that there was in 5th edition was Forgotten Realms. And it's only in the last, 2-3 years that they have been releasing other campaign settings with different lore. So, like, do you...
Even Strahd, that's been in a D&D setting for years, was only released within the last couple of years, right?
No, Curse of Strahd was one of the earlier ones. And that was the only other thing. For the longest time, everything else was Forgotten Realms. The majority of 5th edition has all been Forgotten Realms.
Strahd is in Ravenloft, right?
Yeah. And people have complained about that. I've seen complaints for years about, why is everything Forgotten Realms? Why is everything Forgotten Realms? And now you're complaining about, this isn't Forgotten Realms. So, what the hell?
Yeah, and I mean, this is kind of why it also makes me excited for Spelljammer stuff, is because you get to go, it gives you the opportunity to travel to these more different settings, right? Like,
yeah.
Your characters, like, to me, plane hopping is one of the coolest things in D&D, right?
Yeah.
Could you, like, I can't remember, it was the shop that you guys played at for years.
Oh yeah. Avalon Knights.
Was that not an entire, like, plane hopping
no
alliance?
No, they weren't.
Oh, I thought they were. Okay.
No. The one that I made up for our first campaign that I ran was really rudimentary and not very good plane hopping adventuring company.
Yeah, but I mean, like, but that's the thing, right? Is like, stop and think about it. Okay, this is still kind of on topic.
Yeah.
let's be realistic here. If someone who's powerful enough to create portals to other realms wants more money or more power, they're gonna create a consistent way for them to get back.
Yeah.
And as more people over time hit these levels of power and either A, die off, or B, make more ways to travel back and forth, traveling back and forth becomes easier and more common, right? Between different realms. So just implying that a lot of it always either A, gets destroyed or just doesn't stay consistent, and keeps everything with Forgotten Realms is a little bit sad, but
Yeah.
I love that Spelljammer, if it can make plane hopping a regular thing, I would love to see like an actual setting based around, or a campaign based around that, right? Where you have an adventure in Ravenloft, or then you go to Sigil, or then you go to one of the Hells, and then you go somewhere else, right? As having Faerun as your base of operations. Just it provides a new dynamic to the campaign because you're not always in the same setting.
Exactly. And what we're gonna do with it, I hope I can add a few extra things. The actual adventure it seems pretty short. It's only like 45 pages on the actual book. So it seems pretty short, but at the same time, like, there's so much that you can add. So it's not a big deal, I think. But getting back to the dwarves, humanoid again, medium again, 4 to 5 feet tall, so not 4 to 7. Makes sense. Speed, they got rid of the 5-foot speed disadvantage that they had, because they used to be 25, now they're 30. But they also got rid of the speed is not reduced by wearing heavy armor. And then lifespan 350. They get dark vision, dwarven resilience again, advantage on saving throws against poison, resistance against poison damage. They basically made that a little longer, made it more specific so you know what it's looking at. Dwarven toughness, which used to be only the hill dwarves, so increased health. Then the forge wise, like we were talking about, should be changed to just artisan's tools, not those specific ones. And then stone cutting, which I like this. As a bonus action, you gain tremor sense with a range of 60 feet for 10 minutes. Must be on a stone surface or touching such a surface to use this. Can be natural or worked, and you can use this up to your proficiency bonus per long rest. I think that's really cool. It's powerful, but it's also limited. I think it's really cool. Basically, you can feel stuff touching that surface.
Okay, I wasn't. It doesn't seem like there's an actual. Yeah, tremor sense is interesting. It makes sense to have. I'm still going back to the whole Ardling, give me my 3 spells at 3 levels. Like I don't know. Like I still just think that's so strong.
Did they get rid of?
Like you max it out at level 5. Like take that long. Yeah, I don't know, man.
Yeah, I mean, Duergar did have 2 spells: Enlarge, Reduce, and Invisibility. But yeah.
Yeah.
Apparently, they didn't reprint the Duergar. Interesting. Like, Volo's Guide got made is like no longer sold or anything like that. So all of that stuff is legacy content. Interesting. I thought they would have reprinted them, but I guess not.
I think it's maybe just I don't know. Maybe it's just another one of the like. Because I would say the same about Asmar, right? It's like,
Yeah.
I feel like they would have reprinted them, especially if they they made the new Ardlings, right?
Well, the Aasimar were reprinted in Monsters of the Multiverse, I believe, but the Duragar weren't.
Maybe they just feel like I guess maybe they just feel like Dugar was a good spot.
Yeah, and I mean, in this here, the Dwarves of Many Worlds, they kind of go into that. On some worlds in the multiverse, the first dwarven settlements were built in hills or mountains, and the dwarven families who trace their ancestry to those settlements call themselves hill dwarves or mountain dwarves, respectively, which are the original sub-races in 5e. Orth and Kryn, the worlds of Greyhawk and Dragonlance, are examples of worlds that have such dwarven communities. In other worlds, dwarves have given themselves other cultural designations. For example, on the continent of Faerun in the south, or in the Forgotten Realms, the dwarves of the south call themselves gold dwarves, and the dwarves of the north are shield dwarves. So, yeah. And I do remember a lot of the time in like Storm King's Thunder, some of the NPCs were specifically mentioned to be Shield Dwarf, and like where the fuck do I find Shield Dwarf? I have to read through the lore in the Mountain Dwarf to find where it says, oh, these are called Shield Dwarves here. So, yeah. It's better to kind of...
Yeah, and I mean, like, it might just be that instance of where they felt they were in a good spot, and so even if you use them in future settings, they feel like they'd still be in an okay spot.
Yeah.
The reprint, right?
Exactly.
Maybe it's because exactly what we just brought up is the two spells, enlarge, reduce, and keep invisibility. So they might have just felt like...
just getting rid of the... subraces entirely, and they're all like this. Yeah. And especially since the spells that Duragar had were technically psionic. Yeah, don't need material components. It doesn't say psionic, but the ones in the monster manual are psionic. So that does make sense to me.
Yeah.
And then next we have elves. So elves
felt like they had the best base then.
Yeah. Emma from WebDM hates elves with a passion. She just wants them removed from D&D entirely.
He likes to be an elf.
So
like
created, yeah.
I was gonna say they could make a spoof song. Instead of everybody wants to be a cat, everybody wants to be an elf.
Everyone wants to be Dristoorden. They want to be that good-hearted drow. Is pretty much every elf player wants to be that good-hearted drow.
True.
So, created by the god Corlon, the first elves could change their physical forms at will, which is introduced in Monster of the Multiverse, I believe. The elves lost this ability when Corlon exiled them from Arvendor for plotting with another elven deity named Lolth, who tried and failed to usurp Corlon's dominion. When Lolth was cast down into the abyss, most elves renounced her treachery and earned Corlon's forgiveness, but that which Corlon had taken from the elves was lost forever. They retreated to the Feywild and then later just started going everywhere around the multiverse. The ones who, or elves, have the mystical ability to take on characteristics of the environment with which they are bonded. So drow to the Underdark, which is why they are coal black and purple. High elves to Fey Crossings, which is why they're typically very light colored, and wood elves to forests. These connections grant elves access to certain kinds of magic. So humanoid, again, medium 5 to 6 feet tall, so they're shorter than average humans, but they should still have small. I think they should still have small. Bastards. Speed 30 feet, lifespan 750. They get dark vision. They have the elven lineage, so lineage has basically taken the place of subrace. Their spells, int, wiz, or charisma again, rather than, I think it was only int. It might have been int or wisdom, and then for drow one's charisma, yeah, drow was charisma. And then Fey ancestry, which is the same. Keen senses, proficiency in perception. Trance is the same. And then we've got the lineages. So drow get the superior dark vision. No dancing lights, which they had. Fairy fire and darkness, which they had. Then the high elf. Let's see. They know prestidigitation, which they did not have before. Same with detect magic and misty step. They didn't have any of that. And when you finish a long rest, you can replace the cantrip with a different one from the arcane spell list. So that's new. They got rid of one cantrip of your choice from the wizard spell list. They got rid of elf weapon training and the extra language. That's interesting. Then wood elves, they still get the fleet of foot, 35-foot movement, and now they are replacing elf weapon training and Mask of the Wild with Druidcraft, Longstrider, and Pass Without Trace. So, I mean, it's not as good as the Ardling spells, but they're decent ones. Detect Magic, Misty Step are good. Druidcraft is situational. Longstrider, Pass Without Trace, nothing too great for the Wood Elves. Basically you want to go with Drow or High Elf if you're looking to power game as an elf.
I don't know. Looking at just go Rogue Wood Elf or Ranger.
Oh, I guess that's true.
You nail your sneak attacks. And if you take as a ranger, you can take the feats that I have mobile.
Yeah.
Take hide as a bonus action. Hide in the trees. Pass without trace. Hide from literally every.
Yeah.
And, gain advantage on every single attack. And if you really want, with your advantage, you can do what's it called? I thought about this one time, so I can go on this whole rant. You basically take crap. What is it? I think it's like called shot or something like that. You take a negative to your roll to hit, but you do plus 5 damage. Right?
Shit, I can't remember what that's called, but I know what you mean.
It's like called shot or something like that, right?
Yeah.
And
I know Michelle had that, and she always forgot to use it.
Yeah, right. But then if you're hidden, you're attacking with advantage, so then you have just a higher chance to hit those things, right? Because I don't think Pass Without a Trace drops after. It's based on concentration, right?
Yeah.
So it doesn't drop after you
That's
hide.
true.
So you just get the repetitive bonuses to your hide check.
Yeah.
So there's good
Yeah, that's true. Going into the Of Many Worlds. After leaving the Feywild, elves established deep roots on worlds throughout the multiverse. Within their respective domains, elves often use magic. I mean, we're halfway through, so I'm gonna kind of skim these now. Known for their white hair and dusky gray skin tones, drow typically dwell in the Underdark, other than, Dristo Erden, and Jarlaxle, and then some avoid the Underdark on Eberron, and the drow, I think the drow in Midgard are still in the Underdark, but that's not an official setting anyway. High elves refer to themselves as sun and moon elves in Toril, Sylvanesti or Qualinesti on Kryn, and Aranai on Eberron. Yeah. Wood elves also have multiple names: Wild, Green, Forest, Grugak, Kaganesti, and Tarandal. Yeah. So High and Wood elves are the only ones that they don't mention what they look like, which is interesting.
All these pointy-eared bastards are all over the place.
Yeah. Not as much as humans, though.
Yeah. Well, humans are basically just like the cockroach.
Yeah. So gnomes, magical folk created by gods of hard work, invention, trickery, and life underground. Yeah. And gods like Garl, Glittergold, Bervin, Wild Wanderer, and Baravar Cloakshadow. So gnome traits: humanoid, small, 3 to 4 feet tall. Speed is 30 feet, which I believe is faster. I'm pretty sure that Iggy only goes 25. Yes, so they increased that. I think everyone's going to be default 30 going on.
That makes sense.
Yeah, make it so that they can all keep up with one another. Lifespan 425. Dark vision again. Gnomish cunning. So this is changed. It used to say have advantage on all int, whiz, and charisma saving throws against magic, and now it is int, whiz, and charisma saving throws. Just that. Someone was mentioning that that's pretty strong, and then someone else on that same stream said, well, if you're making an int, whiz, or charisma save, you're probably going to be making it against magic anyway, so it's not really changing it too much.
That'd probably be pretty strong for me for the advantage on those 3.
Yeah, but I mean,
compared to the spells.
Who's doing that against you without casting magic anyway? So, oh, and it looks like Deep Gnome, just like the Duragar, is not is legacy now. Interesting. So forest gnomes get minor illusion, speak with animals, which can be cast a number of times equal to proficiency bonus per long rest. Rock gnomes get mending and prestidigitation, and if they spend 10 minutes casting prestidigitation, they can make a tiny clockwork device, which is slightly different than what they had before. They just used artisans' tools to do that. And the device can produce one effect of prestidigitation. So basically, you could make a Roomba. And can have 3. Each one dismantles itself 8 hours after creation. And can get back the 10 gold of materials. So gnome settlements concealed. What's that?
Nothing. I'm just reading what the actual thing actually is.
Oh yeah. Clockwork toy, fire starter, and music box. And then we skip half elf and go to halfling because there is no longer half elves. Halfling, humanoid, something that nobody ever seems to realize is that halflings are smaller than gnomes in general. Exactly.
Yeah.
And a lot of people thought gnomes were smaller than them, thinking of them like garden gnomes.
I know gnomes are gnomes. Like, I thought they were both basically just gnomes. But funny story, I actually read the fact about why halflings are called halflings because they got sued for calling them hobbits.
Yep. And I think at one point in the movies, at least, I think Aragorn calls them halflings. So that's where they got the name halfling.
Probably. I mean, that was probably used as like an insult derogatory term.
Yeah.
Halfling a human.
Yeah. Half a human. So cherished and guided by gods who value life, home, and hearth. They gravitate toward bucolic havens where family and community help shape their lives. So blessed with brave and adventurous spirit. Yeah. So.
And then it's like basically the first 3 lines are quote from Lord of the Rings. on hobbits. Next lines are okay. Now we're going to make something new.
Yeah. So humanoid, small, 30 feet speed. Again, an increase from the 25. Lifespan 150. They get brave still, which is slightly increased. So it used to just say advantage on saving throws against being frightened. Now make or avoid the frightened condition on yourself. So they're just expanding that to make it very specific.
That's whatever.
Yeah. Halfling nimbleness is not changing. Again, I think it's just it's just making it more specific. You can't stop there, I think, is the only part that's added. Were you saying something?
I was just I wasn't sure. So since halfling nimbleness is like a thing now at this point, or like I know it's always kind of been a thing. So I don't understand how this is a race trait because like moving through allied characters doesn't take any extra movement. So
yeah, the halfling nimbleness allows you to do it with enemies as well. It says any creature.
Of any creature. There you go. Okay, that makes sense then.
Yeah.
But
so
then you're just gonna take an AOP running under a deuce.
Yeah. If you go past them, if you go out of their threat range.
Yeah.
But if you don't, you're getting behind them, and if you're using facing, that would give you that would probably give you the sneak attack.
And well, that's the other thing is are they changing sneak attack back to like 3E rules, where you have to be on opposing sides of the person to get it?
I doubt it. They'll probably
'Cause-
keep it to advantage, but if you're using the optional facing rule, then yes, being on the backside would
Well,
probably give you advantage.
sneak attack doesn't even. So sneak attack applies in two ways, right? Or right now in 5e, where it's if you have advantage on the roll, you can apply sneak
Yeah.
attack.
Or if
Or
someone's
if they're in the threat range of another person, right?
yeah.
So like I still like
I guess I'm not seeing the whole power of the halfling nimbleness, because unless they change like the sneak attack thing, right?
Yeah.
Because that makes sense to easily get around someone's feet,
Yeah.
move behind them, and rock sneak attack that way. But
Yeah.
if there's no facing rule,
Exactly. Then we move into luck. This is something that I really do not like. When you roll a 1 on the d20 of a d20 test, you can re-roll the die and you must use the new roll. So they're shortening it from being an attack roll, ability check, or saving throw, but they're using terrible wording for it. They should just make it a d20 roll or d20. Yeah, if they make it a d20 roll.
yeah. So they're just using the word test instead of roll. So it's
Exactly.
applicable to anything that you roll a d20.
Exactly.
Which, I
and
mean,
it would be
that
the
also
same if it was
applies to-
roll.
Yeah.
And it
I
would
mean-
make more sense to a new player.
Yeah. So I'm trying to think of like what would be the exclusion if they call it a test, right?
It's literally exactly the same. If
So, yeah.
when we get to the definitions, it is literally attack roll, ability check, or saving throw. So it's no different at all. So it would make it much easier for a new player to look at it and see, okay, when I roll a d20, not having to look for the definition of d20 test.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah. I don't know. It seems like there's a lot of language, just minute language changes that they're making.
Exactly.
Or they're trying to make clarity, but I don't know.
It's doing the
Sometimes
opposite in some cases.
It's doing the opposite because everybody else is so used to the old terminology that they're just
Exactly.
changing it from that. But it doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah. And then the last one they get is naturally stealthy, which is coming from, the name is coming from Lightfoot, but it's changing from you can attempt to hide even when you are obscured only by a creature that is at least one size larger than you, changing it to just proficiency in stealth. So, I mean, that's interesting.
I honestly, like, I remember watching a Twitch where the DM, because one of the characters was a large orc, he would let like even medium-sized creatures, if they were far enough behind him, hide behind him.
Yeah, and that makes sense.
Yeah, just because the dude that's in your face is probably obscuring the dude that's behind you, right?
Yeah.
But
Okay.
I don't know. I don't think that that's a bad change.
No.
I like the fact being I like being like characters, small characters being able to hide behind big characters. But
Yeah.
I mean, it kind of just does the same.
It just makes sense exactly that you could hide behind someone who's larger. So I'm scrolling through to find the orc, and I end up finding Deep Gnome and Duergar. So they are still in there, but they're no longer presented as a subrace of gnome and dwarf. They're presented as their own thing, like the Eladrin and the astral elf. So that's interesting. But scrolling down to orc, because there's no more half orc either. It is just plain orc. So, Orcs trace their creation to Grumsh, the one-eyed god. Armed them with certain gifts to help them thrive on worlds beset by monsters. So it's giving them less. Grumsh wanted them to kill all people, and changing it to wanted them to thrive on worlds beset by monsters, which I think makes it, as a white person, I think that makes it less racist than what the original lore was. But I'm a white guy, so I don't know how other people would take it.
Like, again, I'm not, like, I understand why these changes are being made, but I feel like some of them are not, like, again, just people failing to understand one. Because
Yeah.
orcs weren't barbarians because of the color of their skin. Orcs were barbarians because that's how their culture has always been,
Yeah.
and that their
So
culture always focused on survival of the strongest, and the strongest leads.
It wasn't like the complaints about the racism for them isn't so much about the color of their skin. It's that they are given, that originally they were given stereotypes that are associated with people from Africa. And that's why it was racist, because Tolkien and I believe some of the early D&D did that, used those stereotypes of black people to make the orcs.
Okay,
So I can see it there, but then they used that to make lore, to try to make it less racist, and then that ended up still being seen as racist because they were still getting those same stereotypes. So now they're changing that even further.
But that's just silly to me, because orc culture is tribal.
It wasn't originally.
As far as I understood, orc culture has always been tribal. It's always been the strongest leads, right?
Yeah.
So I don't see how, like, that's representative of African tribes, because that's not even necessarily what it's not representative of those tribes necessarily.
It was the stereotypes that were held at that time. That's where it's coming from. The stereotypes that were held at that time. And a lot of the stereotypes have changed since then, but it's, of course, if an African person, if a black person is looking back at the stereotypes that their grandparents had to face, or their great-grandparents, they're going to see it in the original orcs, or older versions, older editions versions of orcs. But that's taken away now.
I don't know. A homage to there's a difference between being racist and paying homage to a culture.
Yeah.
And that's it. I feel, unfortunately, that's where they're stripping away some of this stuff, is that they're paying homage to these cultures. And I understand how some people can pull racist tones away from them, because they are going to be in there. That's just naturally how it is, because that's how the culture is.
Yeah.
But it's not representative of those people. It's to pay homage to those cultures.
Well,
I guess that maybe this is just my different worldview on it.
Yeah.
It's paying homage to them. It's more, sure, there's probably racist undertones to it, because
that's what it was like at the time. Right?
The original D&D was written by dudes that like were born in the 50s, so
exactly.
Their perspectives on things are going to be significantly different than people who are writing.
Exactly.
But taking away the tribalness of orcs seems a little to me, because like I said, I think it's more of a homage to the culture than it is anything else intended to stereotype or be derogatory.
Yes. Yeah.
But that's just, again, a whole nother different.
entire can of worms.
If I'm gonna say that whole argument in a couple of words, it comes down to nuance, and people fail to understand.
Yeah. But moving on, they're humanoid again, medium, going back to the humans, 6 to 7 feet tall, 30-foot speed, 80 years on average. Now, they get adrenaline rush, which used to be a single paragraph. Now it's 2. So dash is a bonus action. Now it's when you do so, you gain temp HP, which was there before, yeah. And now it's, you can do this a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus per long rest, which was there before. So they're basically just shifting around the wording into a different order.
Okay. Orcs might be number 2 on my race power scale right now after doing all this stuff.
Dark vision again, powerful build, so count as one size larger. And relentless endurance, reduced to 0, you come back with 1, and can only do that once per long rest. So they haven't changed at all since their rework in Monsters of the Multiverse. And
Orcs are looking like pretty standard to what they had in the past.
Yeah.
And still pretty. I think orcs were pretty balanced as they were before too. So
exactly, yeah. So in Volos, when they were first brought into 5e, they did have a negative to their intelligence, I believe. And then eventually that was taken out in errata because people were like, what the fuck? And here, the stuff you were talking about their tribal nature is actually in the Orcs of Many Worlds. Orcs sometimes flock to the banners of powerful monarchs. On other worlds, they were defended the natural order from encroachments of fiends. So they're still warriors, and it just depends on the world whether they're tribal or just great fighters because of how Grumsh made them to be able to defend themselves. So it all works out there.
I don't know. I'm just like, whenever, like, I guess when I think orc, I think survival, like the strongest.
Survival of the fittest, yeah.
Survival, the strongest leads. That's how.
Yeah.
Orcs
All right.
Across any universe.
Yeah.
So like any 40K, Lord of the Rings, D&D, Magic, anything.
Yeah. So tieflings are back now, unlike before, because there was an unearthed arcana that had an abyssal tiefling, and then they were like, no, that doesn't fit because tieflings are always to do with the hells, and now they're bringing back abyssal ones. They're also introducing chthonic, which are the ones for Hades and Gehenna. So they look, some of them look cadaverous, others possess unearthly beauty like an incubus or succubus, or have features in common with a night hag, Yugoloth, or other neutral evil fiendish ancestor. So that's pretty cool. Then we've got the traits, humanoid, these ones like humans, medium or small. 30-foot movement, 100 years on average, so a little longer than a human. Dark vision's coming back. Fiendish legacy is where they choose abyssal, chthonic, or infernal. And their spells into his charisma again. And otherworldly presence which is thaumaturgy, which is actually part of their infernal legacy before. So now they get a different infernal, get a different cantrip. So abyssal. What's that?
They get the 3 matched from. Well, yeah, you get the 3 matched from the Ardlings.
Yes. So poison spray, ray of sickness, hold person. Also resistance to poison damage for abyssal. Chthonic get resistance to necrotic, and then chill touch, false life, and ray of enfeeblement. And then infernal are fire, firebolt, hellish, rebuke, and darkness.
So like, tieflings and Ardlings are tied for number 1 strongest race. I don't know, like just innate. Like I think anytime you get innate spells, they're just so strong.
Yeah.
Especially like hold person, free hold person.
Yeah.
You like. I've seen like I've watched a campaign where that was their strategy against any humanoid creature, and they did it against multiple bosses, where they would, because the creature was a humanoid, they would hold person, and then their fighter would go after them, and the fighter, because it was I think a 7th or 8th level fighter, you had 2 attacks, you had your what's it called again? The one that gives you an extra action.
Oh yeah. Action surge.
Action surge. And then
So that's 4 attacks there.
4 attacks, and then they had some other stuff within the party to give fighter like an additional attack or 2.
Haste.
From other people. Yeah, and then haste on top of that if they wanted to, right? So your fighter could get like, the fighter was getting like 6 or 7 hits against this guy that would crit every single one because you're incapacitated. And because you're a held person, you're incapacitated, so every hit counts as a crit.
Yeah.
And it was just like, this fighter did 80 or 90 damage in a turn without like even blinking, and it's just like, okay.
Yeah. So tieflings of many worlds, born in the lower planes, often migrate to other planes and never look back. Especially prevalent in Sigil, and yeah, that's them. Dude, kind of everywhere.
Tieflings are so easy to spread all over the.
Exactly. Yeah. Let's get some 80s.
A lot of demonic and a lot of demons have access to planar travel.
Yeah.
They want their minions everywhere.
Yeah. Okay. So, backgrounds now. So, the default for backgrounds is to build your own. Now, I want to open the player's handbook because I believe technically backgrounds before even the first one, might want to tweak some of the features of a background so it better fits your character. So it is, even in standard 5e, customizing a background is the default. You are allowed to do that without it being a house rule, without it being an optional rule. Customizing a background is base 5e. And this is something that people complain about, that it's putting all the work on the players.
You got a little less out of the backgrounds, like you only got maybe 1 or 2 proficiency skills out of the background.
Yeah.
But now it's related to your ASIs and stuff like that, right? So
exactly.
I can see how people now are forced to pay attention to it, whereas before they weren't. But
Yeah.
I mean, if you're min-maxing a character, you're gonna pay attention to your fucking background. You're gonna take the skills that you want from it. You're gonna
Exactly.
So these people are either A, not playing min-max characters, so they don't and so then what are they playing? Or if they're just playing for fun, then they should have more fun creating their character.
Exactly.
I don't know. It seems like such a pointless thing to whine about.
Exactly. So sample backgrounds, because these are samples, they are not the only backgrounds. They are samples, which I believe, I don't know if it's
Question is how many did they release and how? So it wouldn't be too difficult to build. It looks like plus.
Absolutely not. Yeah.
Plus 2 to 1 ASI. Plus 1 to 1 ASI. 2 skill proficiencies. Tool proficiency. A language and a feat.
Yep. And then equipment. And
yeah, well, I always looked at equipment differently, but well, I guess they included equipment.
Yeah. So, Acolyte. So, you get 2 Wiz, 1 Int, because it is for the Cleric, or the Paladin. You're getting Insight, which is a Wisdom 1, Religion, which is Int. I hate that Religion is Int, but it makes sense because your character is like memorizing the Bible, not innately knowing all religion. So that makes sense. Tool proficiency is calligrapher supplies.
If I'm gonna
Celestial.
be honest, I would make argument that religion should be done. Primarily for the fact that a lot of religion is stories passed down.
I guess that's true.
And I mean, that isn't, well, sure, I would consider like book learning intelligence.
Mm-hmm.
Stories and experience passed down is wisdom.
That's a good point.
Right? I mean, like, the Bible wasn't really a book until someone decided to write it down. Just
True.
Stories and just pulled by word of stuff like that, right? So
yeah. So we've got Celestial for the language, and then the Divine Magic Initiate feat. And then your equipment, prayer book, parchment, calligrapher supplies, robe, holy symbol, and 3 gold. 3 gold is what's remaining from the 50 gold that you get to spend on equipment. So you get 50 gold total for your equipment.
Oh yeah, your character gets focus. Interesting.
Yeah. And then, and actually, let's take a look at what you get in Acolyte. So, in base, you get Insight and Religion again. You get 2 languages, and then looks like they.
I like the
yeah.
first languages more.
Yeah.
Because I hate like everyone metagames the languages, and
Yeah.
if you don't, especially if you don't pay attention and realize that I should have picked 4 languages, and then your DM asks, what languages do you know? Oh, I should have picked 4 languages. I'm gonna pick one from that we meet right now.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. Yeah.
It just prevents that kind of stuff.
I've seen that before.
Yeah. I was trying to pick languages that would be relevant to my character and their background, but
Yeah.
this pushes specific languages, and I think it gives it a good opportunity for people to explore other languages than typical things. Because a lot of people are gonna Dwarvish, Elven, and stuff like that.
Yeah.
the more common, which is a lot of people do Celestial.
Yeah. You're
like
still cutting out a bit there.
And
Okay.
I don't feel like putting a game in my other mic tonight, okay?
So it's weird because your mic must be like slowly lowering because it's good and then it eventually starts cutting out and then you move it up and it's good. So
Yeah, probably, because it's just one of those ones that it just like sits in place.
yeah,
And like the bendable wire that sits in place that I'm using right now.
yeah. But artisan, 2 intelligence, 1 charisma. Investigation is intelligence. Persuasion is charisma. Artisan tools, because you're an artisan. Gnomish, which I can understand because, you know, gnomes build stuff, especially the rock gnome. And feat is crafter, which is a new feat. Artisan is also a new, or actually no, there's guild.
I think I've seen
artisan.
that before. I think I've seen artisan.
Yes, guild artisan or guild merchant. So again, insight and persuasion is the same. 1 type of artisan's tools. Yeah, language, 1 of your choice. Yeah. Abacus, merchant scale. It's similar. Traveler's clothes again. Yeah. And I mean, yeah.
Sorry, I'm just reading the next line into Charlatan, or the first line into Charlatan, and I'm just like, I love that.
Soon after you were old enough to order an ale, you were already had a favorite stool in every tavern within 10 miles of where you were born. Yeah. So
I'm kind of a big deal.
um,
For the wrong reasons.
charisma and dex, again. Deception and sleight of hand, also from the original one. Forgery kit, which was in the original one, but there was also a disguise kit in the original one. Infernal, I'm not quite sure where Infernal is coming from for Charlatan.
Because charlatans are considered to operate in the dark.
I guess that kind of makes sense.
You learn to prey on the unfortunates who are in the market for comforting lie or two.
Yeah.
So it's like perhaps a sham potion or a forged treasure map, like, right?
Yeah.
It's all about
The
deception.
ancient language of deception. That kind of makes sense.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, let's be honest, making a deal with the devil is never as clear as it is.
Exactly. And feat is skilled, which is coming back.
Yeah.
Then we.
That's the get a frequency.
Yes, I think you get 2 from skilled. Back into criminal. So that is 2 dex, 1 int. This time the skill for proficiencies don't have 1 for each. Now it's both dex, but I mean both of those make absolute sense. I could see in investigation instead of stealth or sleight of hand having investigation for the int one, but sleight of hand and stealth both also make a lot of sense for criminal.
Yeah, you're gonna be like, I think that's maybe kind of the defining thing, right, for them.
Yeah.
Are their skills to choose between like charlatan and criminal.
Yeah.
Right. Are you going to steal more, or do you want to rip people off?
Yeah.
Depending on what kind of bad person you are.
And this is also the first one where the skill proficiencies are different. In base, it was deception and stealth. So that's an interesting one. Tool proficiencies, thieves' tools, thieves' cant for the language, which for some reason you didn't get with the criminal background in the original one. And then the alert feat, which makes sense because if you're a criminal, you want to keep your eyes and ears open.
Yeah, you're always going to be on track.
Yeah.
I like
here. What's that?
I like alert.
Yeah. Well, alert has changed from the original.
Oh, is it?
Yeah. So new one, cultist, int and charisma, arcana and religion. So just like criminal, both going for intelligence skills. Disguise kit, because you don't want people to know you're in a cult. Abyssal, because I could see abyssal or infernal, maybe even deep speech for your language, because you're kind of looking at a cult for devils, demons, or creatures from like Cthulhu and shit like that. And then magic initiate, arcane. And then entertainer, which I believe is back. Yes. 2 charisma, 1 dex. Acrobatics and performance are both back. Musical instrument is back. And then you're learning Elvish and get the musician feat. Elvish I can kind of understand. It's probably like learning Old English for
French.
Yeah, being an entertainer and you're doing like some Shakespeare, so you gotta know the Old English, the way to say shit like that.
Additional seems to be.
And then another new one with Farmer, Con and Wiz. Those both make sense. Con because you're out in the hot sun for a long time, and Wiz because the Farmer's Almanac.
Sorry, just to touch quickly back on it.
Yep.
With the musician feat, you know how we were talking about more ways to give inspiration? That's exactly what musician is, basically.
Right. Well, that's good.
You play a song once per long rest to give inspiration to allies who hear the song. The number of allies you affect is equal to your proficiency bonus. So, like, you can give half your party by jamming it.
Yeah. So then, Farmer, yes, animal handling and nature, both of those make sense. Carpenter's tools, yeah, building a barn or whatever. Halfling does kind of make sense. I think it actually says, yeah, like many farmers, he made frequent use of the agricultural almanacs produced by the greatest halfling farmers. So that's where the halfling is coming from. Again, this background text is just sample stuff, so that's where they're kind of connecting it to the stuff that is in the abilities that you get. You also get the tough feat, which makes sense and is pretty good feat.
Halfling is interesting.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't really know what to give, what I wouldn't know what to give them.
Yeah, other than that. So then we come to Gladiator. This is the one that the guy on Twitter was very upset about, saying it's racist. So again, it's sample. So it's a sample. Ability scores, strength and charisma. Athletics performance makes sense. The difference here is it was acrobatics in the base one, and for some reason you got a musical instrument and a disguise kit for Gladiator. Smith's tools also doesn't quite make sense for Gladiator, but I can kind of see it. You're fixing your own stuff.
The costume's confused.
Yeah. Well, I mean, a costume I can see, but disguise kit doesn't make sense. Disguise kit makes no sense.
I see healer's kit.
You see healer's kit?
Yeah,
For Gladiator in the player's handbook?
Yeah, because it's chain, costume, healer's kit.
No, I'm seeing completely different shit. Tool proficiencies, disguise kit, and one musical instrument.
Oh, sorry, we're talking.
Gladiator.
Yeah. Okay.
Sorry, I can't hear you.
So yeah, okay. So tool proficiencies, mist tools, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then yeah, the equipment is chain, costume, healer's kit, javelin.
Oh, up there. I didn't scroll up there yet. So language orc and feat savage attacker. So orc, I mean, you'll forever share a remarkable bond with other pit fighters in your stable. Humans, dragonborn, dwarves, and orcs, hardened warriors all. They're giving them orc because that's one of the three. And orcs, by their own lore, are generally going to be the best fighters, or bigger fighters, especially if they're a gladiator. Yeah. Keep cutting out.
Like to hang out with.
Yeah.
Probably people
Still cutting out.
It's probably because I'm talking a little bit quieter.
Okay, that makes sense. And then...
A little tired.
Oh yeah, I get it. It's getting late, and you got to work in the morning too. Guard, we got strength and whiz, athletics and perception, gaming set, dwarvish and alert. I mean, where's dwarvish coming from?
Yeah.
Dwarven smiths, fellow sentries and the dwarven smiths who kept your armor snug, so that's where they're getting dwarvish here. Alert again, and alert makes sense for a guard just as much as it does for a criminal.
Yeah, and yeah. I mean, I guess for your guard, you're probably gonna have the standard issue with
Yeah.
the smith.
Mm-hmm.
I guess, I don't know. That one's a bit of a reach.
Guide, wisdom. Yeah, Thieves' Cant would make sense. That's kind of where, from what I know, that's where Cockney came from. Was the thieves were, the criminals started having their own language, so police learned that language, and then the thieves were like, well, shit, we got to make a new one, and the police learned that one, and then it kind of just disseminated.
I was gonna say, guard.
Yeah. Guides with wisdom and dex, stealth. I can kind of see if you're trying to. Yeah, I can kind of see stealth and survival, of course. I think nature would make more sense for a guide than stealth, but
Yeah.
calligrapher tools and giant, magic initiate, primal. That's something we haven't talked about yet, is the what they're changing with spells. But yeah, we've got Hermit coming back with Wiz and Con. Medicine religion is probably not changing. What's that?
Hermit knows Sylvan.
Sorry,
Yeah.
I was jumping ahead.
Hermit knows Sylvan, which I can kind of see.
I understand it. It's interesting that they're willing to go to those languages, right?
Yeah.
But decided to give cards.
Yeah.
Card king. Anyways.
Laborer is a new one, I believe. Yeah. Con and strength makes sense. Athletics and survival. Mason's tools. Dwarvish again, but that makes a lot of sense. Tough. Then we've got noble, charisma and int. History and persuasion hasn't changed. Gaming set hasn't changed. They're getting draconic, which I can understand. Draconic is more like Old English for D&D, so that does make sense.
I'm trying to think of like what would be a weird, elegant language that rich people would want to speak. And
so
I'm like,
Draconic or Sylvan, or maybe not Sylvan, probably Elvish. Draconic or Elvish?
Elvish, but like
yeah.
I feel like it would be like one of those just I know this language to be highbrow.
Exactly.
So I understand why it's draconic. Also because like dragons covet wealth.
Exactly. Then we come into Pilgrim, Wisdom and Con, Religion and Survival. Survival makes sense because you're a pilgrim, so you're walking from one church to the next across country. Music instrument, Halfling, I don't quite get.
I think that goes with the halfling's nature, wanting to wander and adventure.
Oh, that makes sense. Yeah.
They do like a pilgrimage before they go home, right?
Yeah.
They travel all over the place. And
That makes a lot of sense, actually. Yeah.
in that sense.
Then they get the healer feat, Sage, Int, Wisdom, Arcana History makes absolute sense. Calligrapher's Supplies. Here's the Elvish for someone who's looking deep in books. And then Magic Initiate Arcane. Sailor, which was an original one. Dex and Wiz, Acrobatics Perception, Navigator's Tools. So they have combined, I guess they did kind of in, I think it was only monsters that got the primordial languages split up. I think it would be better to keep it split up and then give the sailor Aquan rather than just they know how to speak all 4 primordial languages. And then Tavern Brawler makes a lot of sense there too.
Yeah, I looked at Sailor and I'm like, damn, that is a great, just all-round fighter class.
Yeah.
Back fighter.
Then Sailor, Strength and Con, Athletics in Intimidation. So they used to get Soldier. Yeah, Athletics, Intimidation. Gaming set again. There are a lot of gaming sets. Goblin makes sense. And then Savage Attacker. And then the last one is Urchin, coming back with Dex and Wiz, Insight, and Stealth. I think Sleight of Hand from the player's handbook makes more sense than Insight. Just because I think an Urchin is more likely to pick your pocket than some other ones. Thieves' Tools, Common Sign Language is an interesting one because they did add sign language. And then the Lucky Feet. So scrolling down into these languages, so Common Sign Language, I think they should make it sign language and just put a star, and you know sign language of one of the languages that you can speak, read, and write, or one of the languages that you understand, and then you can learn sign language for other languages that you know by because it makes more sense for a dwarf to understand Dwarven sign language over Common Sign Language.
Yeah, unless, like, I mean, I understand where they're going with it too.
Yeah.
Just be like, everyone knows Common, so everyone knows Common Sign Language.
Yeah.
It's just a universe. It's their intended universal language, but
Yeah.
I'm sure, like, it's not a big deal to do it. Like, you know, Dwarven Sign Language. Like, that,
Exactly.
of course, that's 100% a thing.
Yeah.
Even if they don't, it's one of those.
Even if they don't put it, yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, like, yeah. It's just, I think of ASL, but that's only one type of sign language, American Sign Language.
American Sign Language. Huh.
Exactly.
That's what it stood for.
And then, I mean, I'm pretty sure Australian Sign Language is different than ASL, and European, it's all different because they're using different languages or
sounds.
Exactly. And then, yeah, there's nothing else that is different, although they're calling Aquan, Oran, Ignan, and Terran dialects rather than separate languages. So that's interesting. Aquan, Oran, Ignan, and Terran are all the same language, but it's like Swedish and Norwegian where they're very similar.
If you understand one,
You can kind of understand. You get the basic understanding of what the others are saying. Yeah.
I mean, I get it, because they're just trying to wrap it up a little bit nicer.
Yeah.
'Cause I mean, yeah, you can just, like, it seems a little silly to have 50 different
Exactly.
creatures that are underwater. They're all probably gonna understand each other.
Yeah.
Just like how technically, if you want to think about it this way, different levels of the abyss all understand abyss.
Yeah.
Levels of the ocean should all understand primordial.
Yeah. So parts of a feat, they've all got levels, which we kind of discussed earlier. Some of them have prerequisites, and some are repeatable, others aren't. So alert, which changed. Let me go up.
So, how many more feats are we getting? Like,
There's a couple that are different than the previous ones.
well, I just mean, like, I don't mean is leveling up changing a little bit with this, because it seems like if you have repeatable feats, I have a feeling that you're gonna need to get more than, 6 feet.
I mean, some of them are repeatable in base D&D as well. You can take, I think you can take skilled multiple times. And Magic Initiate, you can take one for each class, I believe.
I mean, I'd still consider each Magic
So initiative, alert, how this has changed. So before it was +5 to initiative. You can't be surprised while conscious, and other creatures don't get advantage as a result of being unseen by you. Now, when you roll initiative, you can add your proficiency bonus to the roll rather than a straight +5. And immediately after you roll, you can swap your initiative with that of one willing ally in the same combat, unless they're incapacitated.
Interesting.
Yeah. So if the wizard or someone who's the cleric is going first, you've got a life cleric, but you need the tank going first. Hey, swap.
Yeah. I was just thinking about that whole ranger discussion that we had earlier.
Yeah.
Just taking having alert, right, and just being like, okay, and the ranger into however you provide inspiration, right?
Yeah.
Your ranger makes a different path. Your ranger is alert, right?
Yeah.
Swapping, taking this feat, swapping with your ally, bam.
Yeah.
The first attack, right? I don't know. I still think that would be neat to do some inspiration system like that.
Yeah.
Probably.
All right.
I don't know if it'd be balanced, but that's what, not everything.
Exactly.
Maybe you can find the shit.
So crafter is a new one. You get proficiency with 3 artisan tools. Whenever you buy a non-magical item, you receive a 20% discount. And when you craft an item using a tool that you have proficiency, the crafting time is reduced by 20%. Yeah. Discount. I mean, it's not too bad. 20%.
I mean, you're just like, you basically become proficient in any kind of tools that are in every single artisan's tools if you just are a dwarven crafter.
Exactly.
You're just proficient with everything.
Yeah. Healer, you get battle medic, which is pretty good. Let me open up the original healer. So it used to be when you use a healer's kit to stabilize a dying creature, they gain 1 hit point, and as an action you can restore 1d6 plus 4 hit points to a creature when using a healer's kit. Plus the number of that creature's maximum hit dice, once per short or long rest. Now with Battle Medic, you can expend a healer's kit, 1 use on a creature within 5 feet. They can expend 1 hit die and then get that many hit points plus your proficiency bonus. So rather than healing the barbarian for 1d6 plus 4, they can roll a d12 plus your proficiency.
Interesting. Because that's only going to be like, I don't know. Because it also, well, I guess I'm thinking of our rules and how different.
Yeah.
This back. I mean, yeah, I don't know. That's.
And then healing rerolls whenever you roll a die to determine the number of hit points to restore, including with Battle Medic. If it rolls a 1, you can re-roll the die. If it rolls a 1, and you have to use the new roll, which is good. Isn't that from Life Cleric? I think it is.
Yeah, no, that's good.
Yeah.
honestly, the feat's kind of worth it. It's almost worth it just.
Exactly. And it's great for, like, it. The original healer was not great for a cleric. This one is really good for a cleric, whether or not they're a life cleric.
Yeah.
So Lucky used to be 3 luck points. Can use it on a d20 roll after you roll but before the outcome, and you choose which you get, and then you can spend 1 when attack roll is made against you, and you regain your luck points on a long rest. Now it is equal to your proficiency bonus.
So it's scale.
It scales from 2 to 5. Immediately after you roll for a d20 test, you can spend 1 to give yourself advantage. So that's slightly different. You don't get to choose which of the rolls, you just get the highest one. And same, you impose disadvantage. So I guess it's basically the same, it's just giving it different wording. So really only the scaling number of points.
I mean, it did need a little. Well, it's not even that much of a nerf, really.
Exactly. It's 1 point
It's like
nerf for the first 4 levels.
It's like a change.
Yeah. And then Magic Initiate. So originally you learned 2 cantrips from Bard, Cleric, Druid, Sorcerer, Warlock, or Wizard, and 1 first level from the same one. And then you use the spellcasting ability for that class. Now you choose Arcane, Divine, or Primal spell list, and you get 2 cantrips from that list, 1 first level spell, and you use your choice of Int, Wiz, or Charisma. And when you gain a new level, you can replace one of the spells. So that's an improvement.
Yeah. The fact that your level 1 spell doesn't cost you is nice. It actually makes it kind of feels like it makes the feat worth it.
Yeah.
And then cantrips will fire at will anyways, so.
Yeah.
So it's basically a free level spell.
Yeah. Then with Musician, tool proficiency with 3 musical instruments, and like you were saying, short or long rest. Give inspiration to allies who hear the song, up to your proficiency bonus. So yeah.
Yeah. What else?
I still like your idea from earlier with giving it to classes.
Yeah.
That is a much better idea.
And I mean, they can even leave all of these things in there. So like,
Yeah.
maybe you can, so that you have even more instances, like, because you can't stack inspiration, right?
Exactly.
So it's not like you want stacking it. So like, what's the problem with having a lot of ways to gain it? Because it's only, well, I don't want to say only advantage on a roll, but it's advantage on a roll. It can be game changing. It also can be nothing.
Exactly. You can still roll 2 1s.
It's
Seen that
still
so many times.
right. So
How many you've had both one time where you rolled, what was it, 4 or 5 20s in a roll or in a row, and then 3 or 4 1s in a row?
Yep. I think, and one it resulted in me slaughtering just about everything in the encounter.
Yeah.
The second one just about resulted me in dying.
Yeah.
Both times with different characters I was on. I had
Yeah. Black
So
Razor
that was-
really helped you out in that one encounter.
Yeah, that one. Yeah, though the time I died, that was the time that we were teleporting from. The
Oh
hells.
yeah,
Yes.
in the hells where you guys were teleporting from hell to hell.
Yeah. With the Sphinx and
Yeah.
yeah, that I don't remember what it was, but it rolled to hit me, and I think it was like a con save, and then like which two things that I was supposed to be strong in, and I just
Yeah.
rolled ones, and I was like, well, I guess I'm dead.
So Savage Attacker. Reroll damage dice for melee weapon attacks and use either total. And what it is now, you can reroll damage twice and use either roll. So once per turn, it's exactly the same, only now it's saying once per turn. So before you could use it for every attack, even if you had 3 or 4 attacks in a round.
Yeah, but you reroll the damage dice.
You can roll, not re-roll. So you can only re-roll once.
No.
Oh, before, yeah. You can.
Yeah, oh, so you reroll.
Yeah,
So
you.
essentially, what you're doing. So this one, from my understanding, is before you were re-rolling. This one, you roll twice as many dice,
Yeah,
and you basically take
take
the
either
higher,
one.
if I'm understanding it.
You take either one, so it's your choice. So, if you are, say,
So I guess it's the same.
yeah. So if you've got an ally who's charmed and you want to take them out of the charm, but you don't want to kill them, you roll twice and you take the lower one. If you're fighting an enemy, or if you're the charmed one, you roll twice and you take the higher one.
Interesting.
Then we've got skilled. Gain proficiency in 3 skills, and now it is 3 skills, so that hasn't changed. And this one is repeatable. It never said whether or not something was repeatable before, so technically all feats used to be repeatable. Technically.
They were.
Tavern Brawler, proficient with improvised weapons. Unarmed strike deals D4, and when you hit with unarmed strike or improvised weapon, you can use a bonus action to grapple. Now 1d4 plus strength for unarmed strikes. Whenever you roll damage for unarmed strike, you can re-roll if it lands on a 1, but you have to use the new one. When you hit with an unarmed strike, you can deal damage to the target and push it 5 feet away once per turn. And then you can wield furniture as a weapon. So great club for small or medium furniture and club for tiny furniture. So finally giving the DM some idea of what an improvised weapon might turn out to be.
Like, man, I'm a little sad that there's a restriction on shovels, because like I feel like it would be fantastic just to like, and I'm just thinking of like the bar sequence where you see the dude like push him like 3 or 4 times back into the wall, and right,
Yeah.
and just shoving someone into a wall.
Yeah.
10 feet away,
And then tough is exactly the same as it was before. HP maximum increases by 2 HP per level. When you gain this feat and every level thereafter, so yeah, the same.
an easy way to counterbalance the get contested strength checks. And you can use it on every attack.
Yeah, that would be one way to do it. So Arcane. So going into the rules glossary, these first few don't really have a problem, but here with the D20 test, which should say D20 roll, this is, so they're rolling a 1 and rolling a 20. Apparently this is how most tables play, where it's not on only attack rolls, but they do it on skill checks and saving throws as well, where if you roll a 1, you automatically fail. If you roll a 20, you automatically pass. Which is okay, but I'm not exactly a fan of that.
I don't see the 20. I see the 1
Next,
roll.
it's on the next page.
Oh, there it is. Rolling. There it is. Okay, no. Yeah, see. There are just some rules that you can't succeed on, so I feel like
It's
a little bit much, because like I said, I don't think there are some rules that you should be able to succeed.
yeah,
Like, your
and
work should, to recall some kind of ancient history.
exactly.
Probably
So
is very niche.
this is
library.
where you would have to get into the, you can only roll a skill check if you are proficient, which we don't tend to do. We do allow people to roll and
Yeah,
okay.
we roll on a fucking everything.
yeah, but I mean, that's a good habit to get into. You can only roll if you're proficient.
Yeah, I'm not opposed to that. Because I mean, you either get the rogue who just takes skilled a couple times and becomes proficient on everything,
Yeah,
and rolling on everything, or your group actually gets the chance to interact. Which I would prefer, right? Because it allows each character to evolve.
yeah.
Yeah, it's
So
just you need to spread out across the party. It should.
yeah.
So.
So this one I don't like, the critical hits. Mostly because, well, partly because we've got the cards that we use, but also because, like, the player characters are great, but if what it's saying here is that monsters, enemies cannot critical hit. Only player characters can critical hit. And that will take out so much of the danger to it. Yes, we did have in our first game that I ran, Foster was pretty much killed, but I fudged the dice so that he wasn't dead.
Yeah.
Right at the beginning. First game, he would have been dead, but I fudged the dice for him.
Well, we've had that happen a few times where, like, in the opening kind of couple levels where someone got crit by super died because of something stupid.
Yeah.
But if I'm gonna be perfectly honest, most of our group is okay with death. Doesn't have a problem with it, and those make for fantastic stories.
Exactly.
So,
which of us doesn't remember Foster jumping into a pool and getting crit by the quippers and dying, jumps into a pond and just eaten alive?
Yeah, it's eaten alive by basically piranha.
Yeah.
Or Ryan's pterodactyl person who got shot out of the sky by spiders and then died on the impact of the ground.
Yeah.
From the poison.
Yeah.
Like I said, the few times that it does happen, it makes for good stories, right?
Exactly.
That's why I'm not too opposed to it. Like I've already had this discussion with we either should pick the cards or the double damage. We've gone
Yeah.
for cards this session, and I feel like it's a lot more better than it's just because even if crit, we're not getting fucked.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean the cards make it good because it has tiers. So it starts with just embarrassing things. And then it gets a little tougher as you get into second tier, and then a little tougher in third tier, and then it's deadly in fourth tier, where you can get, like, the crit says you die. And I think the third tier one is where the crit says you lose an arm, something like that. So that kind of scaling would make more sense if they were to just make that rules of written, rather than no monster can crit, and then put that for both, or just leave crits as normal.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I mean, I feel like you can't even insinuate that creatures or other things get it, because it specifically says have a special feature character. You can't even. And it's weapons and unarmed strikes, so it's not even like find something to get away around that.
Exactly. One thing they did do here, you did just mention it.
Crit. What if spells crit?
Exactly. This is saying that spells do not crit, only weapons and unarmed strikes.
I mean, that's fair.
Yeah.
I can't think of a spell that should crit.
Like, there's stuff like the like cantrips. There's very few that have an attack roll versus a saving throw. So I don't see the problem with spells critting.
The problem is that if you have that innately makes other spells more stronger than some spell, because you have the chance to crit. Say for instance a fireball versus a what's the I want to say ray of frost, but same shit. Scorching rays.
Right.
On 3 targets, do you want to roll a fireball that cannot crit, or on those 3 targets do you take scorching rays and deal similar damage and have the opportunity to crit?
I guess that's true.
Right? And so to me, like that, in that instance, scorching rays is better. I mean, as you obviously scale up to more enemies, fireball becomes more interesting or attractive. So
Yeah.
you can hit more people, but
Exactly.
just in those kind of instances, right?
Yeah. So moving on, they added a little extra to the grappled condition. I think the speed and disadvantage on attack rolls, well, speed is the same. Disadvantage has been opened up to any target other than the grappler. I believe that is a change. The grappler suffers the slowed condition while moving if they're dragging you around, unless you're tiny or 2 or more sizes smaller than the grappler. So there's a new condition, which is interesting. And then while grappled, this is a change where it used to be a contested athletics versus athletics or acrobatics check. Now it is a dex or strength save against the grapple's escape DC. So that's a bit of a change.
So grapple
so it doesn't
plus proficiency.
Probably 8 plus strength plus proficiency is probably what it is. But that's a good point. It doesn't even mention what the DC is.
It just says
Incapacitated, I don't think this has changed at all. It's just in here because it was mentioned. Inspiration, this is them really wanting it. And I mean,
Incapacitated lost auto crits.
oh, did it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So no coup de grace.
I'm not wrong. I have to double check. Oh no. Thinking of
Paralyzed. Yeah.
Incapacitated is an incapacitated creature can take action. The action.
And yeah, that's the same.
So no, the concentration is broken. Can't talk. Right?
Yeah.
And you have
Disadvantage on initiative.
Yeah, disadvantage. Right.
Which makes sense. I think that's new.
The concentration broken.
Oh, is that as well?
Yeah, and speechless, right? So
Okay.
technically, like, incapacitated.
Yeah.
I got knocked out by this.
Yeah. I think concentration and speechless is there probably because they figured it was not necessary to say, because of course you can't concentrate or speak, and now they're like, okay, people don't understand that, so we've got to make it clear.
Yeah, maybe you need to clarify for the case of like, oh, I passed out, but does my healing spirit stay up?
Exactly.
Right. I'm not. My concentration. Say my concentration is broken. And things like, and you don't necessarily have to hit 0 HP to be incapacitated. So,
Exactly.
You're not dead, but you're...
Yeah. So inspiration, this part is new, but I don't think it's new, but it's not something that people normally did, which was the
new part is you must decide to do so before rolling the die.
Yes, before rolling the die, you lose it at the end of a long rest, which is new. And then the other thing, it was here. If you get inspiration and already have it, you can give it to a player in your group who lacks it, which is slightly different. Before it was, you can just, when something is going on, you can say, I'm going to use my inspiration for them to re-roll. So that's slightly different.
Well, I mean, I don't think that's different. I think you can still give your inspiration to other players.
Oh, probably at that time, yeah.
This is just clarifying that you can't stack it, but you can give it to your other team.
Yeah.
So that part is giving it to other people.
Yeah. So moving on to resting. This part is different. If a long rest is interrupted by combat or 1 hour of walking, casting spells, or similar activity, you get no benefit and it must be restarted. But if the rest was at least 1 hour long before the interruption, you get the benefits of a short rest. So that is a change. You never got that short rest, I believe.
Yeah. I guess.
I think except in like our games, I think Ryan has asked that before, and I was like, yeah, you can get a short rest because it's been an hour.
That's only a positive.
Yeah.
Right. And it only makes sense.
So, slowed condition is new. Limited movement, so it basically makes it all difficult terrain because 1 extra foot of movement for every foot you move. Attack rolls against you have advantage, and you have disadvantage on dex saves. So that's pretty cool, having the extra condition.
Yeah, sorry,
Sorry, you're
So you
breaking
cannot-
up there.
Oh. You must have 1 hit point at the start
Oh,
of
yeah.
the rest to gain its benefits, so you can't be unconscious going into a rest anymore.
Yeah, they have to heal you before you can get a long rest. That's true.
I was just thought I put that in. That was interesting.
Yeah.
Alright, we're 20 of 21. We're almost done. Let's finish this up.
Yes. So Tremor Sense, I don't believe changed, but unarmed strike does. When you hit with an unarmed strike, you deal your damage. You can then either grapple, escape DC. There it is. 8 plus strength plus proficiency. Only possible if the target is no more than 1 size larger than you and you have a hand free to grab. And then you can instead shove, pushing the target 5 feet away. Only possible if they're 1 size larger than, no more than 1 size larger. So you basically do still get the shove every turn if you want from that Tavern Brawler. As long as you're hitting with an unarmed strike, you can just keep shoving them.
Interesting. That's interesting that they worded it differently in this part and then different there.
Yeah. So I don't even know why that's in Tavern Brawler then, because Tavern Brawler limits it to once per turn, but this is saying every single time you hit with an unarmed strike.
No, so I think this is where the difference is here. So unarmed strikes is a melee attack that involves using your body to damage, grapple, or shove. So you don't get damage and then the option to grapple or shove.
Oh, yes,
these,
it's one of each. Oh, or
So-
one or the other. Okay,
Yeah. So
that's where it
Tavern
is.
Brawler,
Tavern Brawler
Tavern Brawler
deals the
shove.
damage and shoves.
Exactly.
But
Exactly.
regular unarmed strike, it's one or the other.
It's
That
one
makes more
of
sense.
These 3, yeah. One of these 3 things happens.
Yeah.
Hit.
All right. And then moving on to the last page, which is just spells.
Which is actually a really interesting change for grapple. Because then all you have to do is hit the target.
Yep.
I like that.
None of this doing the athletics versus acrobatics or athletics
Yeah,
all the time.
They just get the chance to escape fairly
Yeah.
at the turn, and grapple is not a condition that is incredibly threatening.
Yeah.
It can be if you just get shoved back over the cliff.
Yeah.
But
So moving on to page 21 of 21, the spells. Now, instead of having a bard spell list and an artificer spell list and a cleric spell list, yada yada yada, you've got arcane, which is the typical arcane ones, divine, which is cleric and paladin, and primal, which is druid and ranger. Artificer is mentioned as included in arcane, so I think that's going to become a default class.
alright. I really like Artificer class. I hope they don't change it into just more of a spellcaster. I really like the
Yeah, it's a quarter.
I like how there's
Is it a quarter or half cast?
I think it's a half cast at this point.
Yeah, and I don't think they'll change that.
Or no, no. It might have been something weird. I can't remember who it was, but I found someone was a 1/3 caster. It was really weird.
I think that's paladin.
I was gonna say I think it was Bard.
No, bard is full cast. They get up to 9th level.
Interesting.
I think it might be paladin.
Anyways, but yeah, no, I just hope they don't change. They don't really change the Artificer for what it is right now.
Yeah.
But giving them access to all of the arcane spells makes me a little bit. It's just
seen as another spellcaster.
So I think what they're gonna do, because if you look at the first level spells, you'll see that Cure Wounds and Healing Word aren't in the Arcane, but those are Bard spells. So I think what they're going to do is give them all the Arcane spells, but then also say bonus spells, have a bonus spells class feature that will have these extra ones that they can do. So giving the Artificer the smites and giving the Bard Healing Word and Cure Wounds.
Honestly, I could see them just transitioning Bard into Divine Spells.
Yeah.
I think if you're gonna play a Bard, I think Bard is more should be intended as a support class.
Mm-hmm.
There have been a lot of Bard classes that have been played damage.
Yeah.
And I think moving it towards Divine Spells is probably one of the ways to help curb that back into sports.
Right. I mean, the difference between the three lists now is Arcane is about study. Actually, let's go back up to where it talks about this. So Arcane draws on the an Arcane spell draws on the ambient magic of the multiverse, and then Divine draws on the power of gods and the outer planes, and then Primal draws on the forces of nature and the inner planes. So that's where they're splitting up, and because it's not coming from gods or outer planes, that's why bards will stay arcane. And I mean, you can be a support. I mean, it's the Valor is definitely a damage dealer, but lore is more support.
Well, yeah, that's what Dylan played.
Yeah.
Was the lore bard, right? That's what,
Yeah.
wow.
But
I feel bad now.
Sean?
What?
No, Sean played Whispers.
No, Dylan's character.
Oh, Dylan's character.
The one
Direct-
that killed in this campaign. He was a lore bard.
Yeah. Shit, I can't remember his name now either.
No, neither can I, because I just remember he played the entire campaign. Basically.
Disguised as someone else.
Yeah, disguised as someone else.
Yeah. Skamos Slyfoot.
There we go. I think it started with an N.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, Skamos was a lore bard.
Yeah.
He was the shit.
Yeah. And he multiclassed into Wizard as well.
Yeah.
So, no, he wasn't lore. He was College of Eloquence. Yeah. But, that is all of that. What do you think?
Closing thoughts. I think there were some good changes all in all. There are a few weird ones
Yeah.
they put together, but like I can kind of get them, but some change just in some of the languages that they gave some of the backgrounds.
Yeah.
Whatever. The races that get spells, top tier races there.
Yeah.
I don't care. Have to give basically to feel like it's worth getting 3 spells over. So I think that'll be strong.
see if that changes.
Yeah. Yeah.
And backgrounds with the ability scores. I like that. Allows monetization of your character, so that it's easier to make your gladiatorial elf and your smart orc. It just makes it easier to do those things instead of fudge numbers around it.
I agree. I'm really liking it. Got some things that I need to say in the survey when that comes out, but for the most part, I like it.
Yep. I think this was positive. And then I guess the last thought, spell list joining them. Good call. Makes life easier.
Yeah.
It gets annoying to have to learn to know what spells what your class and overlap and find spells. Just give me one giant list of pick.
Exactly.
Prefer, but this is close enough. They just give us 3 lists. So all in all, I think it'll be good. But for a new edition with this.
Yeah. I mean,
but call it 5.5 and it's probably good.
Exactly. They're talking about, it's just gonna be D&D. Just D&D. But that's what they tried to do with 5e at the beginning, and everyone was like, 5th edition. So they started going into that, but yeah.
Yeah, but that's also because there's some people who are very sticklers for their editions. Like, some people still prefer to play 3e for some of the reasons that I mentioned, right?
Exactly.
Customizing your character,
I mean,
and building an actual character and having to plan out your character, right?
Yeah.
Because, certain classes relied on certain feats and certain had certain weapons, right?
Exactly.
Character planning. This, I mean, it has some of that in it with character or like level prerequisites, but it still is a lot open now.
Yeah. And I mean, there are still people who prefer 4th edition. Like, a lot of people hated it, but there's a lot of people who are like, that's what I play. I prefer that.
4th edition is just math with extra steps.
Not as I would say, from what I can tell, not as much as 3.5. There's a lot of math in there.
Yeah.
4th edition is like an MMO. You get the...
Yeah, because numbers go per...
Yeah.
Numbers go per... but yeah, I like 3.5. 3.5 was fun playing it as a video, like Neverwinter Nights.
I never played Neverwinter Nights.
Nicely and it's easy to track.
Baldur's Gate confused me at first, because I was like, what the fuck? I've got an AC of 18. I've got an armor class of 18. Why is everyone hitting me so easy? Because it's 2nd edition, so it's Thaco. Hit AC 0.
Alright.
Yeah.
But yeah, all in all, I think this.
Yeah. But yeah.
I should go eat because I realized that I haven't slept. Just go this afternoon, and then I came home and I showered, and then I put it on. So.
Okay. Well, yeah. I'll see you next week. We should hopefully have all 3 of you, so game should be going, and yeah. Once you hop off, I'm gonna do the Arkenforge thing again. We keep getting a bunch of stuff, so we just need Arkenforge to get their PayPal fixed, because PayPal won't let them pay us for some reason.
It's probably a PayPal problem. I blame PayPal. Fuck
Yeah.
PayPal.
Exactly. Arkenforge are great folks, so it's just PayPal. But
you don't need me here anymore.
yeah.
I'm gonna peace out.
All right. Have a good one. See you next week. All right. So let's hide Connor's one and hide mine. and hide the D&D 1 image that I added. And now we're on a black screen, and I'm going to bring up the affiliate code, and I'm going to bring up this, and oh boy, why is that like that? That should not be like that. What the heck? Damn you. Okay, I'm gonna have to redo this. Damn it, damn it, damn it. Sorry, folks. Let me just fix this because I need it to actually work. And there, and move you down, and then restart this as we go into us being an Arkham Forge affiliate. You can get Arkham Forge's Master's Toolkit with a one-time payment. There's no subscription fee. It can be used fully offline or online with Discord, Skype, whatever you use to talk with your friends and play games online. It can be installed on an unlimited number of devices with one purchase. Easily import and manage your own content. Build fully animated maps with real-time lighting. Hook up a TV or projector and play in person. Manage your campaigns with a robust linkable note system. Set the scene with immersive audio. You get a full commercial license for your exported maps as long as you have that license for the assets that you use. And it is touchscreen compatible for use with physical minis. Not only that, as you can see here, you can use it with Dungeon Draft, any VTT use, like Foundry or Roll20, or Astral or Owlbear something or other. Fantasy Grounds, Owlbear Rodeo, that's the other one. So if you go to arkandforge.com and use the code MushroomTips, one word, for at checkout, you get $5 off of the fantasy or sci-fi starter pack, which includes the Master's Toolkit and either the Fantasy Essentials or Sci-Fi Essentials content pack. There is also a 14-day free trial, so you can give it a try, and if you like it, hey, support us with Mushroom Tips. And that is the end of the show. We went about half an hour longer than usual, but yeah. I'm gonna follow Connor's example and go get something to eat. I got most of a large pizza sitting waiting for me downstairs, so yeah. We will see you next Sunday.